All right, and what's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube and TikTok? Stephen Ryan back for another video. Back again for debates and stuff like that. Hey, look, call me a glutton for punishment, whatever you have to call me. It doesn't really matter, but we are here now. So if anybody does disagree, thank you so much for liking the live. Genuinely, really does help. Scott Ryan, you were here the last time that we were live as well. I do absolutely recognize you now. Thank you so much for liking the live, my dude. You were fantastic the last one, and I hope that yeah, hope that you kind of stick around and stuff like that, and we will have some good old kind of conversation. Day 2 of asking for moderator. I do hear you. The only thing, so it's not like, look, I'm not saying no. I am not saying no. I just need you. There's a link tree in my bio, and it should have my Twitter on it. Send me a DM, because I'm going to need to go over like the mod rules and stuff like that. It's not just like, you know, you're a mod and yeah. So send me a message on Twitter, and I will go over and I will ask you, or I'll just go over all of the kind of rules to being a mod and stuff like that. But look, having that being said, yeah, thank you so much for sharing the live, for liking the live, for all of that good stuff. Someone says, God bless Trump, save us from the WEF, woke who pharma criminals. That did not make sense as a statement. That does not make sense as a statement. Thank you for the opportunity, Scott. Yeah, look, again, I am not saying no. It will happen. I just need to go over the kind of rules for being a mod, because again, it's not just I tell you to ban someone and you ban someone, right? Like that's not what it is. It's just yeah, I just need you just to message me there, and we'll go over the kind of rules and stuff like that. But other than that, you are like basically a mod, right? You're like, yeah, you're basically. So let's go over to the YouTube chat, or saying hello, and then somebody else says, hi Stephen, let's hope that this stream isn't full of trolls like the last time. You know what, we can only hope. Okay, we can only hope. So yeah, look, back onto that. If go back to watching the Late Toy Show. Do I think that Biden did a good job? I think that he did an okay-ish job. I think that there was some extremely positive legislative wins that the Biden administration got, and I think that the opportunities that he had, you know, that he took, they were okay. He didn't get the actual American Rescue Plan. There was some things in the Build Back Better bill that were taken out of it that really shouldn't have been taken out of it, because if they were still there, I genuinely think that Kamala would have had a much better chance of winning the presidency. But look, we can speculate and we can do all of these things. I think that he did a good job. I don't think that he was a bad president. I definitely wasn't nearly as far left as I would have wanted him to be. But yeah, look, you know, you can kind of pop up and we can have a chat if you disagree with me. And then you said that you've come for the YouTube chat, decided to make a TikTok account and still figuring it out. Dude, I'm still figuring it out, and this is like, you know, I'm coming up towards 10 streams on TikTok now, and I'm still figuring this shit out. So, you know, we're all here together. We're at 500 likes, guys. 500 likes. I've barely been live for 5 minutes, and we're at 500 likes. Genuinely, this like really means a lot, because it's so good at getting people into the stream who might not have otherwise seen it. And yeah, I can invite people onto the live, but the best way of doing it, man, I'm not gonna lie to you, the best way of doing it is just to request to go live. It's just the best way of doing it. People voted for who they wanted. True. I'm not gonna say that that's not true. But yeah, like, yeah, I'm not gonna strange. I don't know how. So it's like the two little icons that's down in the bottom. It's like two little kind of people icons. One of them is blue and one of them is pink or purple. And you just press on that and, you know, absolutely. So we have our first guest of the night that's going to be on, and we're, going to be going on to the first person of the night. Let's hope that this is not a troll and we actually have some decent conversations and stuff like that. But yeah, let's hope so. How you doing, man? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
My name is David. My pronouns are normal, and I'm 26.
Those are not pronouns. Do you want to try that again?
No, because my gender is normal, and those are my preferred pronouns, because gender is just a social contract, man. So my gender could be whatever I feel more comfortable as.
I completely agree with you there. However,
And
Nora
I
and
feel
Mo,
comfortable.
dude, when I'm talking, you're not. So, Nora
No, I'm gonna
and
keep
Mo,
on talking.
when I'm talking, you're not. Dude, please, try me. Try me. When I'm talking, you're not.
Try you.
So
What you gonna
Nora
do, pussy
and
boy?
Mo,
What you gonna do? What you gonna?
That's what I'm gonna do. And you know what I'm also gonna do? You know what I'm also gonna do? That. I'm also gonna do that. So you're never gonna fucking see this live again. Just as simple as that, guys. It's not difficult. It's really, really not difficult. It's 3 easy questions. You answer them, and then we go on to talk. It's as simple as that. You don't like it? Move on. How you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
You can call me Aatu. I'm 21 and he, him.
Okay. What do you disagree with?
I don't think that Elon did the salute. At least not on purpose.
Okay.
And I
So
don't
what do
see
you think
anything
that he
wrong.
intended to do?
Just basically a wave. There's a lot of pictures of a lot of people doing something similar to the salute.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what the
I think
difference
there's
is?
Tell me.
One of them is pictures and the other one is a video.
So do you think that Elon is a national socialist?
I mean, if you're asking like in the like not see, yes, I do.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't think he is. Because I am, and he's definitely not one of us.
Wait, you
Definitely
are?
not. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I am not going to denigrate either myself or the audience in talking to no. Like somebody who actually is cringe enough to fucking admit that that's what they are. No. And you see, I just got a fucking live restriction. So there we go. There we go. That's why. That's why.
How you doing?
How you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
22. My pronouns are Ben, him. And what was the other question?
Your pronouns are sorry?
Ben, him.
Bin him?
Yeah, I've been him. Yep.
Okay, and your name?
Hunter.
All right, okay. What do you disagree with on the board?
Pro-choice.
Okay. Why are you not pro-choice?
Why am I not pro-choice? I just feel like it's a morality thing for me.
All right. So what is what would be the moral issue that you would have?
I think it depends on certain issues. So, like, say if it was grape, if it was sexual assaults, if it was anything in that sort of nature, I think it might have been okay. If it's just for the simple fact that you didn't want to have the kid and you toyed around and you had a baby and you wanted to get rid of it, I think that's a wrong thing.
Okay, so why should you not be able to have an abortion if if you just slept around? If it was consensual sex, then why would you not? Why would?
Well, if it was
why is that stopping you from having an abortion?
Because why are you toying around and accept you when you have consensual, schmex, you should understand that there's a possibility of a kid. So if you didn't want that possibility, you just don't have it, or you protect safe sex.
Right. So if you get into a car and go for a drive, you understand that there's a risk of you getting into a car crash, correct?
So you're comparing abortion with car accidents?
It's a hypothetical. Just go with me. So do
No,
you
there's
accept-
no reason to do hypotheticals here. We're talking about real life issues.
I'm sorry, you don't think that people get into car accidents? You don't think
That's not what I
a real
said.
life thing? Well, you said that you were
That's not what
talking
I
about. Well, in response to me asking you about a hypothetical of getting into a car crash, if indeed you do get into a car, you said that we're talking about real world issues. So
Correct.
Right. So people get into car crashes in the real world. So if you get into a car crash, where I was going with that, but was if you do get into a car crash, if the ambulance then shows up and says, well, you decided to drive, so we're just not going to treat you, do you think that would be an acceptable response?
That's just not how that works.
Do you think that would be an acceptable response? I'm just going to keep asking you the same question.
Why would you keep asking that same question if that's not how that works?
Because that's not how that works is not an answer to that question.
That is an answer to that question.
No, it isn't. Do you think that it is an acceptable response for the paramedics to refuse to treat you because, well, you got into a car and you know that people can get into car accidents? So do you think that would be an acceptable response?
For your sake, yes.
Okay. Yes, you think that would be an acceptable response?
Yes.
You think it is acceptable for paramedics to refuse to treat you because you knowingly got into a car and knew that it was a possibility that you were going to get into a car crash?
We're talking about hypotheticals, correct? So yes, that's my hypothetical answer.
No, it's not. Dude, okay. Are you going to engage honestly or am I going to kick you?
I'm going along the same things you are. You're going hypothetical. I'm going hypothetical as well. I don't know what you want.
Are you going to engage honestly or am I going to kick you? It's one or the other.
So when someone doesn't agree with you, you kick or block?
No,
I don't
it's
understand.
not. No, it's not when someone doesn't agree with me. That would be a little bit pointless, considering I also have debate me down at the bottom of the screen. However, if you are going to so incredibly dishonestly not even engage with a very, very, very simple hypothetical scenario and a thought experiment, then we're not. Then this is not in any way going to be a productive conversation. No, you're not, because you're saying that this is your hypothetical answer. I don't want
Correct,
to know
and this is a hypothetical question.
Answer. I want to know your actual answer. So I'm going
But
to
this is
ask
a
you
hypothetical
again.
question.
I'm going to ask you again. Are you going to engage in a good faith conversation or am I going to kick you? It's one or the other.
This is a hypothetical answer with a hypothetical question.
Right. I'm going to kick you then.
You can get mad, Baldy.
Oh, look with the fucking ad hominems. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to really make you sleep better at night.
Hello?
How you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
I'm Hugo McConnell. I'm 18 and I'm he, him.
All right, okay. What on the board do you not agree with?
Where you say MAGA is uneducated, I'd like to disagree a little bit, because I think a lot of MAGA are college students, like white Texas redneck college students.
Okay.
If you know what I mean? Like, they're going to college, they are getting educated, if you kind of get where I'm coming from.
Okay, simply because you are getting an education on one issue does not mean that you are being an educated voter.
But, like, to go to college, you have to be a smart, educated person, if you know what I mean.
Not necessarily. You can buy your way into college.
Yeah, but there's a lot of Trump's vote demographic were college students, and you can't say that every single one was bought their way into college.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, like, you do agree that, like, simply because you got into college, right, so we can afford maybe like a baseline level of education, does not mean that you are educated in every single issue that you like that you engage with, right?
I totally see where you're coming from, but I do really think that a lot of MAGA is educated. But I can see what you mean by they're uneducated. How Trump almost took advantage of them and created this persona where he was a big Catholic and he loved God and stuff, and he really connected with a lot of the college background in America.
Right, but I mean, the reason that I say that MAGA are uneducated is because they, if you were to present the kind of facts and the reality to them, an awful lot of them are going to disagree with you. Just for example, if you were to, and I mean, like, where I say reality, if you were to ask them who won the 2020 election, an awful lot of them are going to incorrectly tell you that it was Donald Trump that won the 2020 election. That's just, they're just not living in reality. Yeah. Then when you talk about the facts, I mean, like, there are how many people, and it's not just in posts either, it's also in all of the like kind of comments that I have seen, of all of the kind of posts of the recent tax plan that was just passed through Congress, and it passed somehow. I genuinely do not know how it passed, but it did. Of them saying that, like, there was no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security, and that not a single Democrat voted for it, right? That's the post that is going around. However, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime is not mentioned in the bill. They do not. They just simply do not engage with facts. Facts are like liberal bias, and they don't like it, right? So, like, that's why I say, if you are of that opinion and you still voted for Donald Trump, I mean, I'm sorry, you're just uneducated.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not a Trump supporter. I do realize what he's doing is wrong, but I sort of think that the people that voted for him are educated and that their opinions are valued.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, like, they can be well, I mean, like, it's like, as I said at the start, they can be educated in certain areas, but just, like, when it comes to this one particular thing, just not. So, like, I am not educated in every single field, right? But, like, just because I might come on here and talk about all of the things that are on my prompts, right? So I have a degree in psychology and in sociology, but I don't have a degree in geology, right? So on that issue, I am completely and utterly just fucking ignorant, right? I have just no understanding of, like, how, like, any of that kind of thing works. So simply just because I am educated in some areas does not mean that I am educated in all areas. So you can be educated, right, enough to get you into college, right, even enough to pass college and to have a degree. But that doesn't mean you're an educated voter.
Yeah. Okay. That's very smart of you. Okay. Thanks for your debate, Stephen.
Not at all, man. Have a good night.
Magma head. Okay, that was not me. That was more.
All right. This person has been waiting for a good while.
I'm going to say you're a fucking dweeb. Little fucking dweeb.
All right. Well, you know what? You waited because you've been there. You've been there for about 10 to 15 minutes, and you waited for literally 2 seconds. Was it worth it? I hope it was worth it. I hope he feels better. How you doing?
Hey,
What's your name, age, and pronouns?
CJ23. And then he, him.
All right, okay. What do you disagree with?
Yeah, 100%. So let's just start off with the first one, and then we'll tie it into the last one. So I want to see why you think Donald Trump will ruin the United States.
Because he deficit spent like it was his favorite thing to do in his first term. He undid a bunch of regulations relating to environment, relating to all of these sorts of things. Now in his current term, I mean, he's already going after Social Security, he's already going after Medicare, and for Medicaid he has just recently cut cancer funding, and then brought out a token child at his impromptu State of the Union. It wasn't actually a State of the Union address, but anyway, he kind of made it one. Yeah, I mean, like, he is like going to objectively worsen the lives of middle class and working class families.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I don't have my laptop right in front of me to be able to give you the exact details on everything I'm about to list, but just to kind of pick your brain a little bit on the, let's say the cancer research, right? Mm-hmm. I believe, and like I said, I'm using the word I believe because this is what I read, because I don't have the source in front of me. But I believe that funding was actually moved to a different department in another bill. I don't believe the research had actually stopped. But I mean, even on that principle, the principle of the Democrats not standing up is that they weren't able to put the politics aside and appreciate a child who battled with cancer and is now, it's like Make-A-Wish. Why would you
why would you stand up for a token? It's literally a token. So Donald Trump brought that child into the halls of Congress, right? Or I don't actually even know if it was the halls of Congress. He brought him to the fucking State of the Union thing. You like, understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he brought him there, right? And made a point of pointing him out and saying that, like, he was, like, brave and everything else of this. And that's all fine. And that's all even true, right? That bit is all even true. But knowing that he brought that child there, having just defunded cancer research when that child was suffering from cancer, right? Like, that is the epitome of a token. And like, I don't at all in any way, shape, or form like have any issue with somebody not standing and applauding a token, because that's exactly what it is. What you're doing, right, in that moment, and what you're actually doing then legislatively, or like with your politics, is completely and utterly different. So I just don't have any sort of respect for that at all.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'll drop you a follow and I'll find you where those funds were relocated. But moving on from that then. So then if that was a token, right, then what about all the other examples, such as the firefighter, the soldier who was brought home, because Trump has been doing this, these tokens that you're describing, he did it his last presidency and he's been doing it since he became wealthy. He's been doing these little things to the community. He goes into grocery stores and hands out money to people. He'll cover everyone in the store's tab. So for you to say that he did it as a political stunt rather than the kindness, which he's done in the past, I don't know how many times. I don't know if you've ever seen those little short clips of what he does in the stores, or those videos that people take of him in grocery stores taking care of the community. That's never displayed on TV or anything like that, because it doesn't fit what, what the media wants to push. So why is that never shown? The fact that he went to Afghanistan, the fact that he went to church today, stuff like that, or tomorrow.
I don't.
Sunday. Sorry, I'm being stupid.
No, you're fine. I don't care about where Trump goes or what he does, and I don't care that he covered someone's bill. The policies that he is implementing versus that one token of gratitude is so far and completely outweighed. I mean, it might as well be meaningless. So I don't care about it.
Okay. So, and again, I'm just talking about like the example that we set for the country, right? And again, and I'll tell you why I switched from Democrat to Republican in the first place, was because I've just caught so many lies from the Democrats. It feels like, and yes, there are lies on both ends. However, it feels like the more serious things about what actually is going on, even during Biden's administration, the amount of stuff that came out and was found out during his presidency, just his illness and stuff, why was that hidden from me as a citizen? Why was that hidden until now? You know what I mean? Why did it take the debate for America to wake up? Why are they hiding so much?
Well, I don't even necessarily think that they were like hiding in that sense. I mean, like, I think it was pretty much. I think it was pretty obvious to anybody who had ever seen like a speech that Biden had done. And the way that, I mean, like, look, I mean, like, whether you want to excuse like gaffes or like a slip of the tongue, like, or something like that, or not, is completely up to you. I kind of do and don't. There are some instances where, you know, I do kind of excuse, like, if it's just like a slip of the tongue or something like that. I mean, like, Biden has had a stammer for like God knows how long, for like literally decades. I have a stammer as well. I mean, like, it only kind of props up occasionally, or if I'm like stressed, or if you know, if I'm anxious or something like that. But like, the point is, so there is a little bit of kind of sympathy there. Now, look at even aside from all of that, when Joe Biden would finish a speech, I mean, like, the man would turn into a Roomba and just walk away, you know, like he would like put out his hand to people that weren't there, or all of these sorts of things. That's all fine. Trump, like, and this is not even a whataboutism. I mean, like, this is just like a complete another just comparison. The idea that Trump can do gaffes, right, and it's not talked about, not in the same way as it is with Biden, right? So if Biden does a gaffe, right, or if he makes a mistake, or, you know, it's seen as like, oh, well, he's, you know, he's not cognitively there, or, you know, he's suffering this way or that way, or any of these sorts of things, right? But when Trump does the exact same thing, it's not talked about in that way. So I mean, like, why?
Yeah, and to answer your question is that I'm going to make this real quick and then answer your question. So we're going to see two different sides of media, right? Because there's algorithms that know where we lean politically already, and they're going to show us the opposite of what we want to see to engage us, because that's what makes money. So you're going to see more Trump stuff, and I'm going to see more Biden stuff, right? Because that's what engages people. So to answer your question, the reason why it's more frequent with the Biden is because it happens more. I mean, even in the debate, Trump was clearly more coherent. He seemed like he was more aware and ready during the whole debate. And there's stammering, right? Stuttering. I do it all the time, but there's stuff, you know, like what I just did, you know, stuttering and completely being on a whole different page, right? Which is what I feel like Biden was at majority of the time. I don't feel like I can confidently say this is somebody who I trust to deal with a guy like Putin or China and stuff like that. In the state, he seemed like he was in on that debate stage. You know what I mean?
Well,
because if that's him 100%, you know, for all of America to see, behind closed doors, what's going on? You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, look, I would kind of echo then almost kind of some of your concerns. I mean, like, when you had said that, you know, the Biden's performance in the debate wasn't, you know, exactly great, and I think that's putting it mildly. I think he did an absolutely terrible performance. We were promised dark Brandon, and we got Sleepy Joe, right? But the performance with Trump versus Kamala was, I mean, it was embarrassing. I cannot understand how anybody voted for him after that. I mean, for fuck's sake, he said that fucking immigrants were eating cats and dogs. Like, with like absolutely zero evidence as well. And then it was later on, it was maybe, I don't know, 2-3 months after that like JD Vance said, yeah, if we have to invent stories to get people you know, like, kind of focused on these issues, and then he went on, and it's like, whoa, hold up, but back up, just like, you have to invent stories. You said this publicly, like what, like, seriously, you have to invent stories.
So here's the problem with that is that you can't credit yourself like that, because if you can't recite the full quote to me with context, I can't take that short sentence or phrase that you said with any kind of grain of salt because I don't know the context. I don't know the full quote. It just seems like you're taking that phrase and then running with it. You see what I mean? So I'm not trying to discredit you. I'm just trying to say if I'm somebody who's wanting to be educated by you, which I am, but I'm also bringing what I know to the table. I have to have a full quote with context to understand.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, like, I can try and find the clip just so you can like kind of hear it like in its entirety.
Give me 1 second, brother.
I was just gonna say
You can keep it.
Yeah, no. I was just gonna say. I mean, like, it might take like a little. I know that he said that we have to invent. Yeah, there we go. Maybe is this it?
Media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump started talking about it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, you just let me know when you're ready, and I will play the quote there for you. Okay. Okay, so let's catch up with some YouTube and TikTok comments there in the meantime. Seems when it claims.
Sorry about that, brother.
You're okay. Yeah, so I have the.
I did hear what you said.
You're okay. So I have the clip that I was talking about here. If you want me to play it for you.
Yeah, please.
Sure, no problem.
American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
You just said that this is a...
Did you hear that?
Yeah, and give me your interpretation, then I'll give my interpretation of it.
It means that not only did JD Vance, but so did Donald Trump know that story was at best, not verified. That's at best. That's the most charitable way of viewing it. That it was not verified, but yet ran with it as though it was fact anyway.
Yeah, and so my interpretation of that is that at the very end, it seems like it was a comparison, right? He was making a metaphor to compare what was going on between him and Kamala. So based on what I heard, it seems like he's not able to say what he wants to say. So at this point, might as well make something up to be able to draw people's attention, but make a little bit of sense based on what he said. I don't remember exactly what he had said, but Kamala is essentially getting to say all this stuff and it's not being checked, but they are saying factual stuff and it is being checked incorrectly. It's basically from the debate, contextualizing everything based on the fact that Trump was the only one being fact-checked and Kamala wasn't, essentially saying that Kamala can say anything and get away with it.
It's Kamala.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know who Kamala is, but Kamala is who was running against Trump. But yeah, but like the idea is though, I mean, like even if I was to go the most charitable kind of route that I possibly could and kind of say that, that like he did just do that just to like create like awareness around this issue. The problem comes when he didn't then say, so it turns out they weren't actually eating cats and dogs, and that wasn't actually true. But hey, I mean, immigration is a problem. He could have done that, but he didn't. Hello? Hello? I just hear a slur. It was just me. I mean, I didn't.
Alrighty, brother. So, sorry about that. My phone just randomly starts. I have a 15, like a brand new phone, and for some reason it'll just lock up and I have to mute because it'll just start doing dumb stuff. But
well, I mean, you like bought an iPhone, so that's kind of what you get.
yeah, 100%. Are you an Android guy?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Okay, so
all the time.
Yeah, so I'm not really trying to justify like, what he's saying. I just, again, the comparison he was making was the fact that Trump was being fact checked and Kamala wasn't. So for all America knows, she could be making anything up to, whatever, invent a story is what
Wait a minute,
in my interpretation of that.
When was he getting fact checked and she wasn't?
Well, Kamala wasn't fact checked at any point during the debate while they were getting answers.
Who wasn't fact checked?
Kamala. Did I say that right? Give me the right pronunciation. I'm sorry for pronouncing it incorrectly. Kamala. Okay. Sorry about that. So, okay, Kamala, right?
Yeah, so she wasn't fact-checked during the debate, but Trump was. But Trump was saying, like, outlandish and ridiculous things such as immigrants are eating cats and dogs.
Yeah, and
she
for
also,
example...
She also was... just by the way, she also was fact-checked. Like, it wasn't nearly as much as Trump was, I'll give you that, but she absolutely was fact-checked during it.
But, okay, so could you give me one example on what she was fact-checked on?
Okay,
Because I'll give you two things that she had said that was later proven incorrect that wasn't fact-checked. The first one being when she had given those two studies on whose economy would be better between hers and Trump's. She said Wharton School said that hers would be better and Trump would be worse. But Wharton School actually came out and said that they had no hand in that and wasn't even aware of it. She actually said that there was no active duty deployed anywhere in the world at this time. They obviously are. That was fact-checked pretty hard. And ICE ICE had endorsed her, which also was fact-checked by ICE themselves. So stuff like that, which is what was just loosely said without any kind of, fact check. At least with Trump's stories, it was more of like not a conspiracy, but like a trending story that had yet to be. I feel like he was premature on that, but it was something that was, suspected that was going on.
Okay.
So at least it had.
So the fact check that was done on the night towards Kamala was that she had said that Donald Trump left the worst unemployment rate since the Great Depression, and that was fact check on air to not be the case.
Correct. Yes, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But we also have to look at the other stance of it, where majority of it was due to COVID, right? Under any president, that would have been the outcome. So I have to hold that. I mean, even if it happened under Biden, I wouldn't hold that against Biden either, because I understand that Trump would have had the same issue.
Right. Yeah. But like, yeah. So like that, right. But I mean, like that was a claim that she made on the debate stage, and that claim was fact checked on the night.
Yeah. Also, real quick, did I say a slur at any point? Your chat is saying that I said a slur.
Yeah, I'm hearing it as well. Look, I am not necessarily like just going against what chat said, but I mean, like, I have this on TikTok and on YouTube, and nobody in my YouTube has said that you said a slur, but there are like obviously people in the TikTok that are saying a slur, but I didn't personally hear one, and
right. Yeah,
I mean,
and
I know that this is like way too early to kind of judge, but like, given how kind of civil the conversation is going, it doesn't really kind of make sense almost that you would use one. I'm not saying that like yeah. I was just gonna say I'm not saying that my chat on TikTok is just like straight up wrong, but like at the same time, like I would need to know kind of like what slur was used before I even
said I said the N-word, but I mean, not to do anything, but I'm not gonna curse on your live. But I mean, even if I did say a slur, I mean, I'm still Jamaican, I'm African American.
Yeah, no,
but
I mean,
anyways,
okay.
Real quick, so I want to ask you about one more Democratic thing, and then I'll let you school me on Trump, because I'm probably have my facts a little bit weird about him.
Sure.
So bills. Another reason I switched from Democratic to Republican is because of bills like HR 7909, right? And this, I have multiple examples. That's just the only one I have off the top of my head. But it seems like every time Republicans try to pass a bill trying to protect women, such as, HR 7909 was a bill to deport migrants for SA and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. But only 150 Democrats had voted against it. That's the stuff I look at. That's what influences my decision. That's primarily what I went based off of, is that why do Democrats vote against this kind of stuff, but vote 100% for other stuff, you know. And I'm not transphobic or anything, but I do think that men in female sports is unfair as an athlete myself.
Well, I mean, like, okay, so I would have to kind of look at the entirety of the bill. It is the case that, like, the majority of the time, like, a bill that is introduced into Congress that is then voted on is only like a single page long because it only has like one issue in it, right? That's not always the case. So like I'm unfamiliar with the like exact bill that was voted on that you were kind of quoting, so I will have to kind of look into that and kind of see like exactly why. Because I mean, like, just at like face value to me, like that just doesn't, like, it just doesn't read as making sense.
Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind, actually, if you just Google HR 7909, it'll be probably the first Congress result, and it'll show you the details of the bill and stuff like that, and what the votes were.
HR 7909, right?
Yep. Also, man, if my phone tweaks out and I go on mute, don't hesitate to kick me off and just invite me back up later. I don't want to hold you up. It's usually about a minute or 30 seconds that it just kind of freezes. I don't know why.
You're fine. Your fucking government website is really fucking difficult to read because like I can't find like the actual details of the bill. I'm just seeing like what happened to it. So like as in like it passed the Senate and then it went to, you know, it, like, you know what I mean? All of these sorts of things.
Yeah. Can you go to images? I think the images on Google has the result screenshot, the final result.
Well, it has the result on who voted for it, but it doesn't actually have like what is that like bill?
Oh, the information in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have my laptop. I wish I could give that to you, but
yeah, I mean, like,
the name of the bill.
Yeah, I mean, I would be totally fine with like you or even like when someone else kind of like literally just like reading it. Like I have no problem with that, but yeah, I just like, I'm also obviously live right now as well, right? So I don't just want to fill up just like, you know, like minutes upon minutes of like dead air where it's just like it's just me reading a bill, right? Yeah, I will kind of look into it and, you know, will educate myself more.
100%. And that's the thing is that, you know, it's stuff bills like that where, you know, we all raise our fists and we're like, hey, we need to fix this. Let's stop SA and all this stuff against women. A Republican will present the bill and they'll vote against it just because of politics. Like, I don't get it. I mean, even Republicans have voted for Democratic bills that are productive. You know what I mean? And that's just, at the end of the day, that's the only real thing I felt like I could go based off. And I even have a spreadsheet of what the bill was, a short description and who voted. And at the end, I had yes or no votes for who voted for things that were important to me because people vote in their self-interest and go from there, you know? So I think I took the reason I'm tying this in back to the last thing, because I think I took a more educated approach to voting versus going based off TikTok, you know, and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, you didn't have any sort of like issue at all voting for a convicted felon?
Yeah, and this is where you can come back at me now and kind of, you know. But so here's the thing, dude, is I feel like the felonies that Trump had received were definitely targeted and, you know, because here's why, right? I know the case pretty much front to back. You know, he sent 34 payments, right? For one primary reason. Why charge him for each payment? That has never been done, and that's a misdemeanor in itself because Hillary has done it. Biden has done something similar, got a slap on the wrist. But Trump, they add campaign FTC violations to then escalate it to a felony by saying he wanted to hide it to protect his campaign. That was the reason they brought it to a felony. So it just seems like
that is exactly what he did, though. That is exactly what he did. He ordered Rudy Giuliani. I swear to Christ. Listen. Since 2016, I have been trying to say that man's last name correctly. I simply just cannot do it. Like I just can't. You know who I'm fucking talking about. He ordered him to pay off Stormy Daniels with using campaign funds, which is that is like as clear cut and as obvious as it fucking gets.
I'm not trying to stop you, but I think it's the flip side. Actually, if you read the statute says failing to report payments as a campaign finance instead of a personal fund or whatever. Actually, if you read the statute, I'm not even kidding. Yes, it's going to sound real stupid, but if you read that statute, it's actually the opposite of what you said. Is because he didn't use campaign funds for it, because it was campaign related. Hopefully that.
But if he used his own money, then there should be nothing illegal about that.
Exactly, but because, like I said, because now it's an FTC violation, they wanted to tie it to him essentially being like, hey, you should have used your campaign money for this, because if it was designed to protect your campaign, which was speculation by them as well, that's why they then said, okay, well, you should have used your campaign money, not your personal funds instead, which sounds really stupid, but I'm telling you, if you read it, that is what it says. I would bet a lot of money on it.
There's nothing necessarily wrong with, I mean, like, you could argue that's bribery, but I mean, like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with using your own money to pay somebody to make sure that they don't talk about one specific thing. Like there is
100%.
there is nothing like illegal about that.
Welcome to being a republic.
Unless it's to like, you know, make sure that somebody doesn't talk about like a crime or like something that's like obviously, you know, but
exactly.
Like,
and like I said, the problem with it is that they go
that Trump did when he slept with a porn star. I mean, I find it morally reprehensible that he did so whilst his wife was in hospital after just giving birth to his son. I find that bit morally reprehensible, but there's nothing illegal about it. So, like, paying somebody like out of your own pocket, there is nothing illegal about that. So,
yeah, which is why I'm saying
teams of lawyers that Trump had, did not one of them say, yeah, it's fun that you're trying to bring all these kind of crimes against him, but he hasn't actually broken the law. So,
right. And so to answer that question then, right, here's what happened. Shortly before they forwarded the case, I'm sure you knew that they changed the statute in New York to better fit it for the trial. Now, you're going to say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but if you actually do look at the events that happened, yes, they did change the statute. And then they brought him to court. However, the court was held in New York, right, a very democratic state, and they even appointed a different judge for the case. So again, which is why I'm saying welcome to being a Republican, because he didn't really do anything wrong. It's just because he didn't use his campaign funds, because they speculate it was to protect his campaign. They slapped him for 34 felonies for each individual payment for one thing. Never, if somebody commits money laundering, you don't charge them for every payment that they did for money laundering. You just charge them once for money laundering. So hopefully that sheds some light to it, but the felonies don't make sense. And please, I beg you, man, you can fact check me, man. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll say I'm sorry, you know, for spreading misinformation.
No, look, I mean, like, I don't have like the, you know, like complete another kind of like legal facts. I mean, like, especially to do with a country that I'm not a citizen of. I don't have that like on hand, like, right? So I can't kind of argue from like a legal standpoint on exactly kind of, you know, what you're kind of talking about there. However, look, even if we were to just kind of park that just for the moment, it's not that because it's not going anywhere. Like, it can definitely go somewhere, but like, I just personally just don't feel like I'm educated enough to be able to like properly dive into and have a conversation with you about it. I need to do an awful lot more kind of research and stuff like that, specifically with like, you know, like exactly like whether it was his own money or campaign funds. I was definitely under the impression that it was campaign funds, and that's what the issue was. But look, anyway, even just aside from all that, like, you still voted for someone who is held civilly liable of essaying a woman, and I just cannot move past that. Just the idea
Oh,
that like
100%.
people know, like knowingly as well. I'm sorry, this was massive news. Knowingly went into a voting booth and pressed Trump, knowing that had happened. Like, why did you do that?
So, okay, man, it's gonna upset a lot of people, but I'm gonna stay cordial. Like I said, I'm gonna still be the same person. However, what I'm gonna say is more sensitive, and people might not like it. So, are you okay with that? I'm not gonna say anything explicit, but it's just my different viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With that being said, E. Jean Carroll, right? Nobody knows, right? Ultimately, nobody knows. There hasn't been really much. That's why it was civil, right? The statute of limitations had ran out. Now, the problem why I discredit that story, which there's more reasons to discredit it than reasons there are to actually believe it, is because E. Jean Carroll, right? She wrote a book, right? It's called 21 of the Most Disgusting Men in My Life. You can Google it right now. And she essentially describes 21 different events of how all these lawyers, doctors, and etc. essayed her, actually read the book. Now, why in the world would she decide to press charges in 2019? Not a full lawsuit against everybody who had done it to her, but why just Trump? And then proceed to go on live TV describing her book and then say how grape can be sexy. And I'm not kidding. Look it up. E. Jean Carroll says grape can be sexy in interview. And there's no other context to how she said it. It's literally what she says. So that tells me, okay, this lady's maybe is not the safest, most steady mind. So I can't believe that story with 100% reasonable doubt. You know what I mean?
Well, look,
and like I said, fact check me at any point in that.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I don't have an interest in kind of fact checking you on like what she had said in an interview. What I can say to you, you know, because I had said at the very start of this conversation that I have a degree in psychology and in sociology. How people manifest and manage and deal with trauma is incredibly not only broad, but it's also it's also really kind of, there's no like one right answer to it, right? So I deal with like, you know, stress and with like a death in the family and that sort of stuff by kind of trying to make everybody around me laugh, right? It doesn't always work, and sometimes it's even kind of seemed as like bad timing and all of that sort of stuff, right? But there are other people who kind of seclude themselves and like don't want to talk to anybody and just want to be on their own and like with their own thoughts, right? Those are the most kind of common ones, right? But there are also then people who try and like in their own minds water down what happened to them in order to kind of make it so that to themselves in their own head it wasn't actually that bad, and it's a coping mechanism. It's 100% a coping mechanism. So listen, do I take issue with like how she kind of worded it and how she phrased it? Yeah, because I think that like an awful lot of other victims of SA are going to hear that, I'm going to look at that and be not exactly happy with how she worded it. However, I am not in any way, shape or form going to you know, attack anybody else's coping mechanism for like if that's how she wanted to do it. I get that it's not, you know, as like pretty and it doesn't come across as well as like any other different type of coping mechanism or something like that, but like I'm not gonna go on to I'm not going to attack anybody for like their own, for how they kind of deal with stuff. However, I do believe that it absolutely happened to her, just looking at the character of Trump and the other things that he has said and all of these other things, from telling a 10-year-old girl that he was going to be dating her in 10 years to saying that he walks into the Miss Teen USA pageants to inspect the dressing rooms as they were changing because he owns the place and he's allowed to. All of these other things, it builds a case for the character of who is accused, right? All of the like ridiculously creepy things that he has said about his own daughter, which I mean, like, just ugh, right? All of this sort of stuff, it builds a it builds a bedrock of a type of person that you are talking about. And when somebody makes a claim of essay against that character, even if there are some holes in her story or some things that don't really quite add up, I can 100% believe that that person did it, because it has been demonstrated by other or related things that they have said. So, like, yeah, that is why I do personally believe E. Jean Carroll. And yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what differentiates, us. That's what the kind of the barrier between us is, that nobody can 100% say for sure, because it's just what I've gathered is that I cannot say without a reasonable doubt, right? And for me, I think about it in a sense that, look, if I was a judge in this case, I know I'm going to ruin this guy's life forever. He's not going to have a good time in prison. Can I say 100% that he did it? And if he did do it and I let him go, then that's a huge mistake on my part, right?
We don't judge based on 100%. It's beyond a reasonable doubt.
In civil, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and that's where we're kind of on different pages, because I can't, but you can. But I want to talk about a topic that you're well versed in about, that we can resonate with.
I do just want to say, man, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not just listening to the kind of TikTok and the YouTube audience or anything else like that. I just think you've been up for 35 minutes. I do have people asking me to move on. We've had a civil conversation. You can absolutely pop back, man, and we can have it. We can have a conversation about something else. I do these lives like at least kind of twice a week. If you follow me on TikTok, obviously you'll kind of get the notice that I'm after going live. So yeah, look, we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Thanks for popping up.
Cool.
It was a genuinely civil conversation, which is not always the case on here. So I do want to thank you for that. But yeah,
sorry about the Republicans that make us look bad. They deserve how they get treated. People like us are actual Republicans, and just let that be known that there are civil ones out there.
All right. Okay.
All right, man. You have a great night.
Look, have a good night, man.
Stephen? Oh,
Hi.
Okay. Grand.
How you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
My name is Leon. I am 18. And I'm he, him.
Okay, and what do you disagree with?
I don't think Trump did the salute. I'm just going to say, I don't think he did it.
Think Trump did the salute?
No, not... I'm
think Elon did the salute. You're grand, man. You're grand.
Yes,
you're grand.
yes,
you're grand.
yes.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
so
I don't think he did.
Why don't you think that he did? Well, maybe a better question is, like, if it wasn't that salute, then what type of a salute was it?
I think he was just a very silly guy. I don't think he genuinely meant it. I don't think he did. I think he was saying
you don't think he meant it, but he did it twice. And also there was a clip from a couple of years ago, I think it was at a Tesla event, where Elon said, "My heart goes out to you." That is how you show somebody that your heart goes out to you. Speaking as somebody who is also autistic, which is the kind of accusation that has been kind of given against him, it's not an excuse, by the way. We do talk with our hands. I talk with my hands all the time in day-to-day conversation as well. That is how you kind of show that your heart goes out to someone. So he's already shown how to do that with your hands. So why would he do it in a completely and utterly different way?
It could have been the heat of the moment. In fairness, he was talking to a massive crowd. And surely you have to feel a little bit nervous while you're talking to that many people.
Okay.
I don't think it went to his head.
Okay, so you know the band Queen?
Queen, yeah.
Yeah, so they performed in front of hundreds of thousands of people, which was more than double the crowd size that Elon was talking to. So why didn't they do it? Because they were just an excitable bunch as well, weren't they?
True. But they're a full band of people. Elon was up there by him, giving a speech. It's a bit of a different crack, because it's politics versus concerts.
Well, you said that he was in front of a large group of people and he probably got excited. So
Sorry, hold
if
on.
I
There's people downstairs.
right,
Yes?
so if I show you then like a solo artist who got out in front of a massive crowd and who was very excited and didn't do it,
Great.
like is that
Do you keep up with MMA like No. Do you know a fighter called Shut the fuck up! Sorry, Stephen. Sorry. Do you know a fighter called Bryce Mitchell?
no?
He went out and he said a lot of bad stuff recently, like a lot of anti-Semitic stuff, and I don't think he did the Nazi salute, and I don't. Fuck! Sorry. Didn't mean it. That could work and get you banned. Sorry.
You're fine.
He did that, and I don't.
Schmatzy.
Yeah, Nazi. Sorry.
Yeah.
He went out and he did it, and I didn't think that he was similar to Elon really, because like he was bad. He was calling everyone like really, really bad words, multiple racial slurs, saying, oh, I can't say that word either. Oh, the one with the smoke, but not smoke gas. That he was talking about that. He was bad. He was bad. Everyone hates him, and like I have feeling.
Clearly, not everybody does.
What? True. Actually, I saw an edit about him the other day. Yeah. Also, there's edits about it. Oh, true. Smack my head. Smack my head. Smack my head.
Jesus.
Smack my head. Smack my head.
Christ above, man. Jesus Christ. Why can't people just fucking debate, honestly? You know what I mean? That guy was sitting, and I like, Jesus Christ. I said this earlier in the stream. That guy was there for the entirety of the previous conversation. He sat there for 35 minutes and just fucking waited to do that. Like, how fucking sad is your life, dude? Like, literally, how sad is your life and your just general existence? Oh. All right, we are waiting to get the next guest up. You can obviously see that and stuff like that. They're not responding in time. We are going to move on to the next person if it's not there in the next couple of seconds. USA thinks they're just a joke. Obviously, people start to treat them. Yeah, 100%. What happens? You missed it. It's this ridiculous fucking. It's not even an ad hominem, and it's definitely not a slur either. It's just this really weird fucking thing that people keep fucking saying at the end of it, and it's just like, again, you sat there for 35 minutes to have 2 to 3 moments of a conversation and then just go on to that, which you know you're just going to get kicked and blocked anyway. So it's just like, Jesus Christ, like these absolute children with these sad fucking lives that are just waiting for yeah, anyway, my heart goes out to them, honestly. But yeah,
Oh my god! What?
how you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
We're back. Smack my head.
Again, that, like, just what the fuck? Like, why? Like, literally just fucking why? Like, right? I also, like, literally heard the other fucking dude in the background saying fucking, oh my god, we're back. It's like, dude, like, what the fuck are we doing? Anyway, guys, we're on 12,000 fucking likes. Yes, I am Irish. We're on 12,000 likes. If we can get some more likes in here, okay? If we can get some more likes in here, if we can share it out just a little bit more. We have 16 people in here at the moment. It's now just gone up to about kind of 20-25. If we can get some more people in here, we have a good number of people over on YouTube as well. You know, conversations are going to be kind of here, right? So we have another person who's just after joining. We'll move on to them and see how this goes. How you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
Hello, my name's Jamie Ballman. I'm 19. My pronouns are he, him.
Okay.
And
What do you disagree with?
like I disagree with a few kind of your kind of viewpoints mainly. I watched that kind of long conversation that you had with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just a lot of your viewpoints are just kind of disagree with mine, I suppose. So trans men and women are men and women. I don't agree with that, number one.
Okay. Why not?
Because I think that men and women is defined by your chromosomes. I've heard this on your debate before,
Mm-hmm.
that people
So
have mentioned
that
these
would be,
chromosomes.
yeah, so that would be your sex, not your gender.
And then what would you define gender as?
I would define gender as well, I mean, like, literally just define gender, or define what, like, a man or a woman is.
Well, start with just what gender is.
Well, I mean, like, gender is a social construct that, like, loosely is connected to your sex, but not always. A man then would be an adult human being whose phenotypic expressions usually links with their sex at a birth, and it would be the same definition for a woman.
So I suppose a common argument with this would be like, well, 500 years ago they wouldn't have came up with saying they're different. Would you agree with that?
No. The idea of no. So trans people have existed since about 400 BC. And
hold on.
Yeah, I mean,
before we go any further, what evidence is there to support that? Sorry.
Just history. Google it. How long have trans people, or like how long have trans people been around, or you know what I mean? Like, were there trans people in history? You can Google all of these things.
Well, then how come like in the last like 20 years we've seen kind of like this really extended thing? Would you say it's because of the internet?
No.
Because if I'd say, I'm not sure on the actual statistics, but if you probably look at censuses, like the percentage of people that identify as not their like birth, whatever they're born with, it's probably a lot higher now than it was 50 years ago.
It probably has, yeah, because the acceptance around it has also gone up. The exact same thing happened to gay people in the very early aughts, and the same thing happened as well in about the 80s with left-handed people. As soon as something that was kind of stigmatized, or that like was kind of seen as like being bad or negative, is then kind of like allowed or legalized or normalized, or it's accepted, the amount of people that are in that now accepted group, yeah, the numbers do obviously rise because it's accepted now.
Yeah, I mean, I do actually get where you're coming from there. Like, being gay has been more acceptable. Being bald-headed smack my head's been more acceptable. Just like you bald-headed smack my head.
Mods, because I know that you're in here, fucking just block them. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, what the hell is wrong with people? Like, this is exactly what I'm saying. Like, you have a conversation for a couple of minutes, it genuinely seems as if it might be fucking going somewhere, and then just right at the end, like, it just, like, your sad existences, man. It's literally just sad existence. It crashed out. Yeah, you can say that he fucking crashed out. I don't whatever you want to say. I don't even fucking care. I don't care what the reason why these like absolute fucking children keep coming back in here and saying this shit. It's not getting me fucking banned, because I've done this I don't know how many fucking times, and they've been here almost every single time. Look, I mean, trolls are going to be trolls. Trolls are always going to be here, right? I mean, like, there are like people who have like hundreds upon thousands of followers who literally do live streams every single day. They get fucking trolls. Trolls are always going to be a thing. Like, if you're going to come on here and you're going to do a stream, you're going to have to be fucking prepared for trolls, right? Like, I'm not saying that I'm not prepared for them, but just at the same time, like, get a fucking life, man. Literally just get a life. Like, it's just weird. How you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
Yes, my age is 44. I guess pronouns is he, him. And what else, sir?
Your name,
Oh, James.
James. Okay. What do you disagree with on the board?
Um, well, that Donald will ruin the U.S. That trans men and trans women are men and women. And well, pro-choice. But the reason why pro-choice, I'll just let you know right now, is because I'm Roman Catholic, so that it goes against my beliefs.
Okay. I mean, like, there's almost no kind of point in talking to you about abortion then.
Right.
Because,
Yes.
I mean,
I know.
well, yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, do you
No,
want to talk
I wanted to
about?
lay the premise. You know,
Yeah.
so
That's
that
fine.
yeah.
That's fine. Okay. So I mean, like, why don't you think that Donald will ruin the U.S.?
Okay. I feel that for a very long time, I don't know how old you are, sir, but I feel for a very long time that America has in their in all their what America was originally founded on, especially I grew up. I come from an Italian background, but I grew up with Germans, Irish, mostly all from Europe that had extremely good work ethics, and we have in the last I want to say maybe 30 to 40 years, that work ethic has dwindled away with the newer generations that are coming up because, well, pretty much I think that a lot of the younger people they feel entitled. There's no everything's a handout for them. They don't know what it is to actually work and to obtain something. So everybody's got the gimmies. And I think Trump is here to kind of bring back what we had when our grandparents, our great grandparents came over, trying to reinstill that into the American public. At one time, we had the automotive industry was right out of Detroit. You know, right after World War II, America was. That's why they were called baby boomers because the economy went up. And back then, when you had a war, especially after World War II, the economy was great. People were buying houses, cars were affordable. If you were a garbageman, you could send your kids. If you had 5 kids, you could send all 5 to Catholic school on a garbageman salary. And then again, and I think that that's what he's trying to do. One of the biggest things I know that people are bringing up is with the tariffs, but tariffs have been.
Okay, we missed the last little bit of what you said there. You said that when
Oh, I'm
people
sorry.
bring up tariffs, and then it cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, that we've America has been using tariffs for years, at least for 2 centuries.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't exactly work out very well for you the last couple of times that you were using tariffs. I mean, especially as a way of like supplementing kind of income tax and all of these things, which Trump has said that he wants to go back to, that he wants to get, well, I mean, he said it on the campaign trail. I don't actually think he's going to do it. But he said that he was wanting to get rid of income tax and like just have tariffs as a way of kind of supplementing the government. But yeah, I mean, like this idea about like people being like entitled to kind of answer your question. I'm a couple of months off of 30, so I'm still here. But yeah, the idea that kind of like newer generations are entitled. Well, I mean, like, what are they What are they entitled to? So if you actually hear,
what I mean.
Yeah. No, go on.
Oh no! So what I'm saying is that it's gotten to the point of if you don't mind me asking, I don't want to just assume, but it sounds like you have an Irish brogue. Am I correct?
Yeah. You would be correct in that. Yeah.
Okay, so I am sure, because I'm assuming that you grew up in Ireland as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am pretty sure that when you were growing up as a child into a young adult and even into adulthood, that if there was something that you did wrong or something that was off color or something that that your parents would reprimand you for that, and what I mean by reprimanding is where probably a smack to the ass, or I don't know. For me, I used to get a pop on the back of the head or a smack on the ass or whatever it was.
Sure.
If I used foul language, again, it was a different time how I grew up. But I'm American children, I should say, that are growing up today. You cannot discipline them. If you try to discipline them, they are so I want to say savvy with the internet today that they know what their rights are, that if their parents try to discipline them, that the parents are the one that get in trouble, not the kids. So the kids feel, and that's what I mean by sense of entitlement. So they have no respect for the parents. So then when they go to school, why do you think it would be any different? This is one of the biggest problems that I think that America is dealing with, because when I was growing up, if I did something that wasn't right, or if I didn't clean my room, or if I didn't do something to that, we had no maids, so
Okay.
I would get reprimanded from my mother. So go with that.
Okay, so the idea that kids feel entitled to not be hit as a form of discipline, I mean, like, that is an entitlement that I think that you and I would both share. Like literally, like, right now, like, so if I make a mistake in work and my boss turns around and like punches me in the head, you're goddamn fucking right. I'm not just gonna take that and I'm gonna go onto the internet and see what I can do about it. The idea, like, so spanking children has been like proven as not being an effective way of disciplining a child. The psychological kind of evidence of what it does to a child is I mean, there's quite a lot of it.
Do you think you and I turned out okay?
Simply just because somebody turns out okay doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't an ineffective parenting technique. So luckily I wasn't exactly spanked very much or whatever, but I mean, the idea is that, like, if you as a parent, if your one and only kind of reaction, or not your one and only, because that's a little bit unfair, but if your if the first thing that you do as a method of disciplining your child is to spank them, then I mean, like, I'm sorry, you're not a good parent. If that's the first thing that you you're just not a good parent.
I agree with you on that. But I mean, like, after several times of do this or do that, and then you're still I'll do it when I feel like it. I'll do it later. I'll do it, and they keep putting it off, and they keep defying. Then I think that in order to get some type of I guess a positive reaction, that's when spanking came into play. But the thing is, it starts there. But as that child grows up and goes into American society, and now a lot of these young kids, I'll give it to them. I give credit where credit's due. They're very book smart. When it comes to excuse me, when it comes to street smarts, or well, this that's just gone. But the point is, when it comes to actually holding down a job, being able to take orders, being able to follow a chain of command, and they don't want to do it because they don't feel like it. Well, they're gonna cry when they spend all that time, they go to college, the parents pay for them to go get their masters, and sadly, there's an old saying that I'm sure that you and I both know. Do you ever hear the saying, common sense is not so common anymore?
I have heard that. Look, I don't necessarily mean to cut you off. Like an actual friend of mine who does want to kind of come up and talk about this. I don't normally do kind of 2v1, and I'm not going to either. I'm going to take this opportunity to go for a pee break. So yeah, I'm going to bring her up now. I'm going to mute myself, and I will still obviously be listening in the background. So
okay, sure, no, absolutely. And again, I do enjoy speaking about this with you.
Yeah, not about it.
Hi.
Hello. Is this Olivia?
This is Olivia. What's your name? Sorry, James.
James, yes.
So I basically kind of came in on the tail end of the conversation, and I gathered from the end of it, it's about like disciplining children, obviously, with slaps and things like that. Do you have kids?
No. Actually, I don't. And I thank God for that every day, because I see how some of the kids treat the friends of mine that I went to grammar school with and high school with, and it's really appalling.
It is, and let me tell you now, kids are hard, man. Jesus. You've got to have patience. And in regards to slapping kids, I have a kid, and it's learnt behavior. We slap our kids because we were slapped. And I get what you're saying. We turned out okay. But when you think logically, we didn't, because we think it's okay as of violence as a form of punishment. That's in our mentality, because we got a slap. And like, don't get me wrong, I got given slaps growing up, if you get me. And I've done it. I have a 2-year-old. She's been given a slap on the hand, slap on the legs. And then now when she's angry at me, she thinks that that's an appropriate response to give to me. I've annoyed her. So I have a 2-year-old that, because when she's done something wrong in the past, I've given her a slap. She now thinks because I've done something wrong to her, it's appropriate to slap me. And that's what we're teaching the kids, that by slapping them when we're annoyed, it's okay for them to slap when they're annoyed. Do you get what I'm saying?
But Olivia, now let me ask you this: Did you or I think that when we were their age that it would be okay to do that, or were we, I guess, more obedient to our parents to where? You understand what I'm saying?
I don't think obedient is necessarily the word. I think fearful would almost be more of an appropriate word to use in a way. Because especially here in Ireland, it's very common for somebody to say, sure, lads, my ma would batter me if I did that, or if I said that.
Right.
We don't do things more so out of fear when we were growing up.
Well, it goes to that old saying again that I'm sure that you and I have both heard, that there's a fine line between fear and love. Is it better? Is it well? Yeah. Or is it that one, or is it yeah? I think it's that one. Yeah. Because to fear someone, if you like here, I don't know if you're religious or not, but if you fear God, you love Him, because you fear not to do the wrong, to sin, uh, because at the end our soul is on the table, so to speak, whether we spend eternity in hell or we spend eternity in heaven. So going with that logic, um you know that's how I was brought up anyway. So but the
Difference of
thing,
opinions
I
and
I no
different
I
upbringings,
of course
150%. I don't think if you want somebody to love them, you should make them fear you.
I understand.
And I don't think that if you could potentially see the fear that you are causing in somebody, I don't understand how you could stand back and say, that person loves me because they fear me.
Well, did you ever hear of if a parent is hard on a child, it's only because the parent wants to teach their children that the world really is a hard place, and if you're not strong enough, that this world will eat you up and spit you out as like there's no tomorrow, and we all know this to be true. So is it bad to think like that? I would say, especially from what I dealt with in my life, no. I don't think it's bad because, but again, the point that I was trying to get at is that when the child, it starts there at childhood, obviously, but I see these kids. Some of these kids they're brilliant. I mean, like academically, they're wonderful. The thing is, when you to go off to high school and you go off to college and you go on to get your master's and you get that job that's high paying, and when even when you become a supervisor, there's a chain of command, just like I was in the military. So there's a chain of command. So even though, like, you might get, let's say you're you might be a supervisor or a director, you have several other people above you, and you have to be able to take orders. If you don't listen, you'll lose your job. And then, or what I've been seeing is that I see people, especially the younger people, they have they have 2 and 3 masters. But as I was telling your friend before, not a lick of common sense. I mean, like there's the simplest basic things that in a job they can't even they can't do, or they don't want to. I mean, and again, it becomes a problem because how can you how could you say that you can do the job or the role of a supervisor or a director? Meanwhile, you can't do like basic things, or because of, and again, it stems from listening to your parents from an early age. And I think that what you learn at a young age is going to dictate how you are when you become an adult. So that's the core of it that I'm trying to say, that I think that's why early childhood discipline is important, and I think that that's ultimately going to affect a lot of kids in America, I should say, because they still don't have those quote unquote those values, work ethics that my grandfather brought over from when my grandfather came from Italy. I was working with my father when I was 10 years old. I used to dig ditches with my dad. I worked. My father was into ship repair. I used to get dirty, and then my mother would flip out or whatever. But the thing is, my father was trying to teach me and my sister the value of a dollar. And today it's just that is not being being taught. And again, I think a lot of kids, because parents, they always want to give to their kids what they didn't have growing up. But I think there has to be a line where you say, where do we draw the line where that comes? Because that now you're coming to a point in time where everybody has the latest technology out there. Everybody has the newest Mac laptops or the MacBook Pro, iPads or the newest Samsungs or whatever. And it's just like it's a constant gimme, 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 and there's no working towards it. There's no, if you do this, you have to work towards this in order to, because things like this cost money. Everything is just constant, like, giving out. And I think that's not a good parenting skill that America kind of got into.
Exactly what you've just said there. It's not a good parenting skill, and I
Yes.
hear a lot of like, oh, the youth of today are terrible. The youth of today, they're not good. They're so bad. And that's what a lot of people are saying, and that's basically kind of what you're getting at there. But did you ever maybe stop to consider that the youth of today isn't the problem? That it's actually the parents of the youth of today. Because like you've just said, it's not a good parenting tactic that they've been using. And it's the parents of the youth of today that have allowed the youth of today to become what they are.
But Olivia, would you agree on this at least? You know the saying, the apple don't fall too far from the tree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you have little Johnny who's who wants to be a bully, and and you try to bring it up, then the teacher tries to bring it up with the parent, and then the parent says, "Oh, not my Johnny. My Johnny's an angel. Oh no, how could you say that?" You know what? And then the parent starts to have, it's all in how they're doing that. And I think that our whole parenting, look, I'm not saying today was good, and I'm not saying that when our parents did the best they could with us, when we were being raised, but I think that there has to be some type of a happy medium somewhere in between, because where we're currently at right now, raising children, it's just not a good situation. I remember.
Can I
went
just
to
ask, how old are you? Just
I'm
really
I'm
quickly.
44.
Okay, so different generations. Me and you.
Yes.
Different generations. Okay.
Yes.
And whilst I might agree that my parents, your parents, did do somewhat some good, they also didn't really. We're still reeling and we're still learning from everything that our parents have put us through. Like, you look at how common it is nowadays for people my age, your age, anybody my age higher, attend therapy because of the trauma and everything that our parents did put us through. And we're still learning and we're still working through all of what necessarily is acceptable when it comes to parents. I do think slapping doesn't work. I've been there, and like I've said, the slap on the hand. My kid is 2.5. My kid, because of my attitude towards her misbehaviors, one day went into, now this is no reflection, but she's got some form of anger rooted in her because I gave her a slap on the hand. She went into one of my knives and forks trays one day, took the fork out, lunged it at me. Things like that, that's not learned behavior, but I don't want to be giving into those violent tendencies with violence and teaching her it's normal to react in a negative way.
I understand where you're coming from. My what hit. Okay, so I can I let me ask you this: when if you could remember back to your childhood, if there was something that you did or that and you knew that you were gonna get hit, did you think about it twice before doing it, or did you say, yeah, you know what, fuck it, like I'm gonna do it anyway because it's pleasing to me and I don't care what my parents say because
Depended on the
that's
severity of
just
how bad it was. I'll be honest. Most of the time, I say, "Fuck it." If I can get away with it, I'll try and get away with it.
r-
Lie till the cows come home.
right. So then, but if you knew you got caught, then you knew that a smack was coming.
Yes, 90%
So
of the time.
so then you see that's the point that I'm trying to make is that that fear is necessary at that time because it makes you think twice about doing something before you do it. You know it's
But I
wrong.
didn't. That's the thing. Most of the time, I didn't think twice.
I
And I think
well,
especially because Stephen does know me, and I can guarantee he's probably going to sit there saying, yeah, 90% of the time, if somebody said Olivia's not allowed to do something, Olivia was going to do it anyway, because her attitude is get fucked. I'm not going to be told by somebody else what I can and can't do.
yeah, yeah, but when you're young, I don't think that a child normally has that type of
You'd be surprised because stubbornness is deep rooted in a lot of kids. Stubbornness is deep rooted in a lot of adults. And if you I had strict parents. I had very strict parents. And when I was tiny, you wouldn't have noticed it. As you get older, you do. And that's where kids start to rebel. That's where a lot of problems come in because mommy and daddy said no. So I said, fuck you, I'm doing it anyway.
yeah. No,
And that's where you start to come into a lot of problems as well.
So, all right, let me ask you this.
Go for it.
Was your okay? If you don't mind me asking, were your parents married at the time? Like, well, they were
Yep.
still together there.
Yeah. Still together now.
All right. No, because I was gonna. I know sometimes like in single family, single parent families, that tends to happen a little bit more. But to just say that happens with single parent families, that would be that'd be silly to say because it's can't you can't just generalize everybody like that.
If you put too much restriction on anything, and it's if you have a bowl full of water, if you have a water balloon and you tie something around that and you keep pulling at that tie and you keep pulling and you keep pulling and you keep pulling, eventually it's going to burst. And that's basically, if you put too much restriction on kids and things like that, that's what's going to happen. They're going to burst.
Right, it's
They're
gonna
going to
pop.
rebel. Exactly.
No. I listen. I see. I see your point. I'm open minded to how new things and things like. But again, I also see how things that I would have never done with my parents. My dad was like 6'1", and all he had to do was look at me, and I'd shit myself if I knew I did something wrong. So it was like that's how it was when I was growing up. Or if my mother, if my mother called my father at work and said, "Do you know what he did?" And then when I came home, I knew I was going to get it, and I was in deep shit because I was in fear that I was going to get hit.
Exactly. And I don't think that your kids should live in fear that they've done something wrong, because You can do something wrong in a million different ways. In a million different ways. And if you allow your kids to be fearful of doing something wrong, 9 times out of 10, they're never going to learn. Do you know? And also,
listen,
you should.
You make a very valid point. Most definitely. I agree with you. I mean, it sounds like just a different, not to say what's right, wrong, or indifferent, but I guess to say just a different method of parenting, which is, again, I'm glad that you're actually talking about this, because this might even help people on the panel here. But I do I'm open minded to new ideas. So but yeah.
I agree. Different types of parenting need to be approached because we're living in a new age. New world technology is fucking rampant, but when you're talking about especially slapping kids, you do have to remember we now live in a world where, sorry lads, I'm freezing. We live in a world where it's not actually legal anymore for you to slap your kids, not in Ireland anyway.
In New York, it is, believe it or not. Open hand to the bottom is legal.
In Ireland, it is child abuse. I remember a day and age where my mom marched us into the guard station and stood us in front of the guards and said, "Now, tell these kids, is it legal for me to slap my kids?" And the guards turned around and said, "Yes." And you're thinking that's 15 years ago? It's now a completely different ball game, especially for the fact that it is child abuse. If you hit your kids and they're in the right frame of mind, the first thing they're going to do is get onto social media. The first thing that is going to happen is a social services investigation is going to take place into your house and hold. They're going to come, they're going to assess your house, they're going to say, "Look, you can't hit your kids. That's not right." And in your mind, you're thinking, "Well, I got fucking slapped, so what's the difference? I turned out fine." Well, we didn't turn out fine because we're all mentally fucking riddled with something in today's day and age. We're all dying to death with trauma. We're all sitting there saying, "Lads, do you remember running from your ma with a wooden spoon?"
Sure.
That's not normal.
Those are my fondest memories.
Some of mine, but then where do you draw the line on what is acceptable to give your child a slap for?
Again, it's more of a morale type of question. But the thing is, like, all right. Let me ask you this: Are you still Roman Catholic or no?
I'm Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic.
Okay. Yeah. And please, in my household, we were practicing Catholics actually. But I was an altar boy the whole nine. And I can tell you one thing right now. I just think, and again, I don't know if this is like worldwide right now or if it's like generalized towards America, but I'm pretty sure in Europe that it's mothers and fathers still try to teach good work ethics, good morale, good responsibility, respect, all these things. I see it. It's more problematic, I think, in America because it's I could do whatever I want, and a lot of most kids today don't even like like in history class they don't even teach about like World War Pearl Harbor like what the beginning of World War II, or the Constitution for like rights that they're you're entitled to. It's there's a lot of things that have changed even throughout the education system in America that I really think needs to be brought back. Like a lot of schools don't even teach economics anymore. It's and again, I'm only getting this information from my friends that I'm still close with, and I think that that's really where our next problem goes when they actually start going to school, because I don't think it just seems that like a lot of kids don't know about
But that's not their fault. That's
say
not,
again, I'm sorry.
that's not their fault if they don't know about what they're not being told.
But yes, but I don't know if you're familiar with if I may for a minute, Stephen, are you familiar with the problem with the education system in America today, or no?
Yeah.
So, do you see how like here, people that graduated like 20 years ago, are probably more have more education, even if they didn't go to school. Let's say if they cut out or whatever, they probably know more than they're actually being taught today if the child is going to school on a daily basis as well.
Yeah, no, look, like, I'm okay. I think like for you guys, this is gonna kind of seem like very, 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 very like abrupt and stuff like that. But
He's kicking us off, James. He doesn't want to talk to us anymore. He's saying, get fucked.
it's not that.
He said,
it's
fuck
not,
off my fucking live stream. Get
It's
out.
not
That's
that.
what he's saying.
It's
I
not
love
that.
you. You're
It's
great.
not
You're
that.
great.
James, you have been extremely kind of cordial and everything else. I would be very interested in having you back, Olivia. It's good to talk to you as always. However, at a certain point, I do have to start listening to my chat, who has been asking to move on to the next person. So yeah.
He's just fed up with us. Don't listen to him, James. He's
it's
just a wind-up merchant. You'll never hear from this man ever again. It took me 10 years to hear back from him.
Listen,
Steve,
you have almost all of my social medias. You could have texted me at any stage, okay? You chose not to, all right? That's not on me.
Look, lads, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be completely honest and real with you now. I was just scrolling TikTok after putting Little Miss down to bed. I came in on the tail end of a conversation and I said, lads, I'd love a little argument tonight. So I don't even know what you were chatting about, to be honest.
Well, look,
But
anyway,
it's been nice. It's been real.
Yeah, it has. So look, yeah, no, genuinely, James, you were very, 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 very cordial. Those types of conversations are a little bit rare here on TikTok, so it was good to kind of have you in. But yeah, look, we'll talk to you both kind of soon, hopefully. Anyway, and yeah, look, James, enjoy the rest of your night. Olivia, I will hopefully talk to you at some stage soon. And yeah.
Babes, I'm going to come up on your lives every now and then and just ask to join in the middle of an argument.
That's okay.
Steve, I'm going to follow you.
No problem at all, James. Yeah, so you'll kind of get the notifications then, like next time I go live and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. Anyhow. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. See you, Olivia. Nice talking with you.
Bye, James.
See you, Steve.
See you around,
good,
Steven.
guys. Be good.
Hello.
How you doing, man? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
My name's Brady, obviously, and I'm 20.
Okay, you're really, 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 really muffled, man. Is there any way you can kind of...
I'm muffled. Hold on. 1 second. I just got a new phone, so I'm not super familiar where the microphone is. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better anyway. So what point on the board do you disagree with?
I disagree with all of them, but I'll give you a bit of, what's the word, grace with the Elon one and the MAGA. I think with the MAGA one, it's more of a thing that not people on the right that are uneducated, it's the majority of people on both sides are quite uneducated. So I'd agree and disagree on that one.
Okay, so which point do you want to kind of tackle?
Honestly, I'm happy to tackle any of them. So if there's any that you're interested in talking about. Or do you want me to?
Well, it's not just because like it's a new point on the board, but I also haven't actually talked about the pro-choice topic. So if you if you want to talk about that, then we can.
Do you remember a guy called Rob? I think you had him on the YouTube.
Yes.
The other day. Yeah, so me and him are actually good friends, and he used to do lives on here where he was arguing from like a pro-life point of view. And I used to join him sometimes as well, so that's actually a good topic that you've picked.
Okay.
So I would consider my life. For one reason, I think that every human has inherently value, and if we start ascribing criteria to what that is, that opens up everyone to basically be discriminated against at will, based on what the law currently is, if we can't describe an objective definition of who deserves rights and who doesn't.
Okay, well, well, I mean, it's not even necessarily like who like gets rights and who doesn't. For me, consciousness is or sorry, not consciousness, sentience is present at around kind of 20 to 24 weeks. So I'll be kind of generous and say 20. And before that, I just simply just don't care. It doesn't have any sort of sentience. It's not of any sort of value to me.
Okay, I can understand where that's coming from, but as far as I know, the earliest premature birth was 14 weeks. So there was a child at 14 weeks which was brought outside of the womb that still managed to develop, so we do not consider that an important factor to say that 20 weeks is your cutoff because they're not sentient.
I am very much unaware of that early. To
14 to 16 weeks. It was on, the Jubilee debate with Charlie Kirk, and it was fact checked, and he was right.
Earliest. What do I even fucking Google to get that?
I'd say probably maybe earliest. Would it be prenatal? I think that's the correct term.
Well, yeah, earliest premature. Okay, so the world's most premature surviving baby is thought to be Curtis Keith Means from the USA, born at 21 weeks and 1 day.
Okay, well, I'm not sure exactly.
And I literally just Googled earliest premature birth. I did not say any country. I did not say anything. So that's coming up at 21 weeks. So...
Okay, I'm happy to concede that. I'd probably have to look into it further to have that point of debate. But anyway, yeah, no, I'll happily give you that one. But my point is basically at the point of conception. My view of it is that it's now a human life that has separate DNA from anyone else, right? So therefore, if we're discriminating against them, or they don't think right, they don't have the same value as me, we're opening up the grounds to litigate against anyone based on what we view as describing them rights.
Sorry, if you could say that last point there again.
So I'm saying if we decide which human gets rights and which doesn't, now everyone is open to be discriminated against because there's no objective standard as to what is a human life.
But I've already said it's not about giving or taking away rights. It's about whether or not you like should kind of consider it morally valuable or not. And before any sort of sentience, I just don't.
Yeah, but you also have to look at the fact that at that point it might not have sentience, but it has 100% given enough time the ability to develop it. So by you ending that, you're taking away their ability to develop sentience.
Right. So so what you're basically saying is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, what you're basically saying is that because it will develop consciousness, therefore that we shouldn't be allowed to abort it, right?
That's not the reason. I think that's the point I'm deriving there. My thing is that they shouldn't be aborted because they're a human life, which inherently
right. But I mean, like, was that your last point that you?
Yeah, you're taking away their future.
Right. So should we allow a 5-year-old to drink alcohol?
No, because they're not.
Why
at
not?
legal
It
age.
will. No, why not? Because it will be 18. So
How can you be drinking alcohol to ending someone's life?
because if you're saying that if you're saying that we shouldn't do an abortion based on my criteria because it will eventually get sentience, well then we should allow 5-year-olds to drink because they will eventually be 18.
Okay, but here's the difference. We stop people who are young from drinking alcohol because it badly affects their health. I would argue that by aborting someone before they're born, that is like the worst thing you can do for their health. So it's not a very good
Not necessarily, because if it's not sentient, then it isn't even aware what's happening to it. So
awareness doesn't mean anyone has less value. Like, there's people who I'm sure you interact with in daily life that are like intellectually disabled. That doesn't mean that their life is any less valuable than mine, even if they can't fully perceive the world the same way we can.
yeah, I didn't say that. I didn't even insinuate that. The point is that even the people that I would interact with on a day-to-day basis, every single one of them have sentience, and a fetus does not. So I don't care what happens to it.
Yeah,
Now you can say that that's like a cruel and almost like, you know, morally reprehensible position. That's fine. I personally think that the idea that anybody is getting involved in somebody else's, and sometimes a total stranger's business about what they should and shouldn't be doing with their life, I find that morally reprehensible. So, but the point still remains that, like, simply just like, if you don't have sentience, then why should I even consider you?
Again, because humans go through a cycle of development, right? So the same reason a child has the same rights you have is because they're a human life at a different stage of development. Every single one of us at one point was in that stage, and we were protected from dying by the laws that we have now that still serve us. So why should a certain percent of people be excluded from that, even though we've all been at that stage? Every human has to go through it.
Okay, so like you're like kind of I got parts of that. You're kind of back to the like muffled bit again. I don't know whether you're just kind of covering the mic on your phone, but yeah, I got bits of that.
1 second. Is this better when I speak like this?
Yeah.
Way better. Okay, yeah, it's at the bottom. Yeah, so essentially what I'm saying is every single one of us have to go through that stage of development, right? So we discriminate on people based on the stage of development they're at. What's stopping us from giving children less rights than adults? Adults less rights than other people. It's a slippery slope of
children do have less rights than adults. Children can't go and get a tattoo. They can't go to the doctors by themselves. They can't sign them. They can't give their signature if they require like a surgery, even if it's life threatening. So like children have all sorts of adults have all sorts of rights that children don't have, and fetuses have even less rights than that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't argue that those are, say, human rights. Those are like privileges we get in society, right? So it's like you don't have a right as an adult to get a tattoo. You have the right to decide what you want to do for yourself.
Right, but you have the right to life, though, right?
Yeah, but you're saying.
So then why? So then why does a child require a parent's signature to get a life-saving operation?
Referring to what?
If a child needs a life-saving operation, right? Say they need like a blood transfusion, or they I don't know, something absolutely like horrible and horrific has happened to them, and they like need to be operated on like now, or like we know that they're not going to survive. Why do they need the parent's signature?
That's because they don't have the legal right to perform that signature themselves. But within the context of that, if the parent refuses to do that, majority of the time the hospital will actually fight a legal battle in order to gain custody of the child and sign it on their behalf.
Right, but that's so that would be the case, but not if the like operation or the surgery or whatever it happens to be needs to be done like right now. Like, if it's not done in like a week's time, the child is not going to survive. The hospital still at that stage cannot intervene and just do it anyway. So the point is that if we have a right to life, which you've already agreed to, then why does a child need the parent's signature? The reason is because the child has less rights than the adults do, and fetuses have even less rights than that. So the idea is that until you are like until you have reached a stage where you have developed sentience, I just do not consider that kind of morally valuable at all.
Okay, but everyone gets human rights, right? So our human rights don't depend on how old we are, what country you're born in, what language you speak. These are things that everyone is given before they're even born. And they're considered inalienable rights, which means no government can take them away from you. Right?
Well, technically speaking, no, that's not true. There is obviously such a thing as human rights. That is like a concept, like that exists. But the idea that like no government can take them away from you, well, like no, not necessarily.
There's inalienable rights that are separate from your legal rights.
Okay, so what would be an example of an inalienable right?
Your right to life.
But we've just gone over the fact that a child cannot sign a form in a hospital to have a life-saving operation done themselves, that they need the parent's signature. And if the parents don't sign that, I mean, like, it's pretty well known that Jehovah's Witnesses don't allow blood transfusion. So if a child of a Jehovah's Witness needed that surgery, then like they're in pretty rough shape then, right? So clearly that's not an inalienable right.
Yeah, but I'm not agreeing with their decision to do that. I think that if someone is born to a Jehovah's Witness and their parents are refusing to give them treatment, the hospital should absolutely intervene and give them the treatment.
Right.
Because of the right to life.
Right, but the point is that if an inalienable right can be at any stage kind of taken away, then it's not an inalienable right.
Exactly, so people can infringe on your rights. They're infringing on your rights doesn't mean they no longer exist.
Even inalienable rights, which means that it does in that context not exist.
Because someone is infringing on them and removing them from you. But morally, you still have them and no one should take them away. There's no law that should be signed into effect that should remove those rights.
I didn't necessarily say that the law should be signed in that like doesn't give them those rights, but on the fact still remains that you haven't given me a reason as to why I should value a life that is not sentient.
The point I was trying to bring up is that, right, so would you agree that a separate life is formed at the point of conception?
Sure.
Okay, so if someone is now a separate entity with their own being, their own potential, their own future, everything, you shouldn't be able to infringe on them because they're now a separate person.
But they're infringing on your rights to bodily autonomy by not being allowed to be taken out of the womb.
You can't take them out of the womb without them dying at that point.
Sure.
Exactly. So what I'm gathering is.
But wait, so the fetus's rights matter above everybody else's.
No, they matter the same. That's the whole point.
But they don't matter the same, because an adult can sign their own form to have their own operation done, and a child can't, and a fetus has even less rights than that. But now you're saying that the fetus has just as much rights as the woman does. Well, we know that that's not the case.
Again, you're talking about legal rights. I'm not talking about legal rights. I'm talking about moral, inalienable human rights. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about your ability to sign or work at a hospital.
Yeah, but these rights are not. They're not inalienable.
Okay, but like I would assume you're an atheist, right?
You would assume, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So atheists seem to struggle with this a lot. I'm not an atheist. I'm agnostic. But the problem is, you can't believe in rights above legality, because in your worldview, there's no one to prescribe those inalienable rights to you. Correct? There's no God to give you these rights.
Well, rights are not. Well, yeah, no. I mean, like, no rights are given to you by God. Rights are given to you by the country that you live in. There are certain rights that I have that other people in different countries don't have, and vice versa.
But
So
just because
these
people
rights are not given to you by any one deity; they are given to you by the country that you live in.
But in the context of what we're talking about, they're literally referred to as God-given rights. So say like the right of life that we're talking about is one of those that we consider that. So just because in a legal sense can infringe upon those, that doesn't mean that that right that you have and should continue to be able to practice is no longer relevant.
Right. So simply just because it says, or that like we have kind of grown up kind of saying the phrase that you have God-given rights, that means that you have God-given rights, and everything that I just said about I having different like everything that I just said about me having certain rights because of the country that I live in, and somebody else in a different country doesn't have those rights. I thought you said that they were God-given. It didn't, and it shouldn't matter where they were born.
So like I've said, you have certain rights, to say the right to life, and then you have legal rights. So the example you're bringing of a child not being able to sign paperwork, right?
Wait, so is the right to life the only God-given right?
No, it's not.
So what would be another God-given right?
Your right to life, your right to bodily autonomy, the one you like to bring up, your right to freedom, your right to not be restricted and incarcerated. These are all things that you're given that should not be taken away from you.
Right. So you have a right to life, but you also have a right to bodily autonomy, and those are God-given rights. But what if two God-given rights come into conflict? Who wins?
I mean, you're going to say that the baby being inside the mother is a conflict in terms of bodily autonomy. I would disagree.
Well, of course it. Well, I would say that because like the pregnant person would say it.
Pregnant person?
Yes, pregnant person. Yes, somebody who has the capacity for pregnancy. Yes.
No, so a mother. The correct word you're looking for.
Okay, am I debating you or am I debating Michael Knowles?
You're debating someone who's using reality. Like, I'm not going to refer to someone as a pregnant person.
No, you're using Michael Knowles' talking points. Not every woman has the capacity for pregnancy, and trans men exist who can also get pregnant. So pregnant people.
So you're saying I'm using a talking point. I didn't know that the truth has become a talking point ascribed to one dude. Like, so Michael Knowles made this whole thing now, like...
Okay, so first off, Michael Knowles has never had a truth associated with him. You're giving him far too much credit than he actually deserves. But secondly, if you want to talk about, like, the reality and the reflection of reality, then yes, pregnant person or pregnant people would be the most accurate term, because it is inclusive without being exclusive. So it is saying that, because you would agree, I presume, that not every woman is capable of getting pregnant, right?
I would agree that not every woman is pregnant.
So if you would agree with that, and then also acknowledge the fact that trans men exist who also have the capacity for pregnancy, then simply saying woman or mother is not the correct term.
Yeah, but a trans man at the end of the day is still a woman.
Is still no. A trans man is always a man. He is still biologically female. Kind of confusing gender and you're confusing gender language with sex. But so the trans man is always going to be a man, but they are biologically female, which means that they could, at least in theory, have the capacity for pregnancy. So the idea is that if you want to, like, include everybody who has the capacity for pregnancy, then you would use the term pregnant people or pregnant person.
Okay, so has anyone been birthed by a father before?
If it's a trans man who's giving birth, then yes.
Well, could we say, oh, my father gave birth to me? Has anyone ever said that, ever?
Well, I mean, like, first off, I don't think that it's happened enough times, and maybe because it's only kind of starting to happen now, that the child is just simply just not old enough to be able to kind of make such a statement. But, you know, give it a couple of years, I'm sure they will.
Like, do we not see the idiocy in saying my father gave birth to me? Am I the only one
No.
here? Like, I'm not trying to put it away from the abortion conversation. It just came up. Someone said that. But, like, I just don't agree with that at all.
Okay, okay. I mean, like, it matters not what, like, makes sense to you or doesn't. But also, somebody in the chat has also said that has also already happened in the UK. that somebody has said that my father gave birth to me.
Like, I don't know, man. It just sounds a bit odd to me. Anyway, we'll get back to the abortion debate.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, look, basically, the crux of it is, if you are a human, right, and we've established that at the point of conception, it's a new human, right? So they are now a new human that have their own rights, separate from anyone else's ability to control them, right? They should have the right to life the same way everyone else does. Now,
well, they do have the right to life. They just don't have that right at the expense of somebody else's bodily autonomy.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, 95% of children come from a situation where someone is consensually engaged in sex. They haven't been forced against their will to do that.
Okay, why does that matter? Consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy. Consent to sex is not even consent to continuing to have sex.
But that's like saying, oh, I consented to pulling the trigger. I didn't consent to ending the life of someone else. It's like one action inherently leads to the other.
No, it doesn't.
So if you have sex, you engage in the act of a risk of pregnancy. Like, you can't separate the two.
Okay,
unless you're infertile.
But I've had sex a bunch of times. Pregnancy has never been the desired outcome.
Yeah, but you're engaging in an action that has consequences. So you can't say, I'm going to engage in this action, but then I'm going to infringe on someone else's rights when the consequence happens.
Right, okay. So if you get into your car, right, and you are driving around, if you get into a car accident, should the ambulance help you?
Yeah, because I'm dying.
But why? But you got into the car and you knew that a possible outcome of you getting into the car was you getting into a car crash. So why should they help you? I'm following your logic here, by the way, because if you're saying that if you engage in sex and you know that pregnancy is a possible outcome, then under your worldview, they should not be allowed to have an abortion. So if you get into a car and you get into a car crash, then under your worldview, you should not get any help from the paramedics.
So is the analogy you're drawing here that the abortion is the treatment from the paramedics for the
yes.
Okay, but here's the difference. If I am in a car crash and the ambulance comes to help me, they're saving me. Doesn't cost someone else their life.
Sure it might. Sure it might. What are you talking about?
So someone.
What if you're in a car? What if you're in a car crash and you crashing into somebody's car like runs it off of a bridge, and the ambulance can't get to the person in the car who went off the bridge in time because they were too busy saving you? So of course it might. That's a ridiculous thing to say.
No, I think the analogy is inherently flawed because on one side.
No, the analogy is absolutely not inherently flawed. It is almost the exact same. You're saying that if you engage in an action which may result in an undesired outcome, then you're stuck with the consequences. So
we're saying undesired outcome, literally the only outcome.
The undesired outcome would be pregnancy.
And what, like, that is the very reason it exists. So it's not exactly an undesired outcome.
But okay. What percentage of people do you think who engage in sex have sex to have a pregnancy?
I don't know.
Right. Okay. I would argue it's probably 2%.
Okay. And if we go back,
so
years,
the idea, so the idea is that if you are not having sex to have a child, then if you do get pregnant, then why should you not be able to have an abortion?
Now look, I'm not demonizing anyone who gets an abortion. I think people are put in situations where it is a difficult choice to make and it looks like the right one. I'm not here to come in over that. I'm on the human rights side of the debate, right? So your analogy that you use, that if I am in a car and I get in a car accident and the ambulance comes and helps me, they shouldn't be able to help me because I've gotten in my car and accepted the risk of a car crash, correct?
Right, but if you have sex, then you accept the risk of pregnancy. That doesn't mean that if you get into a car crash that you should not be helped by the paramedics.
Absolutely. But now here's the thing. Someone from an ambulance helping me does not stop someone else from living. Like, that was...
Yes, but no, but of course it might. Of course it might. The person that you get into a car crash with, they might not be able to help them in time. We're not even talking about the people that, because the ambulance went to you, that the ambulance then couldn't get to somebody else entirely different who was not even a part of it, that they couldn't get to them in time, which means that they didn't make it. So it's not just about the two people, like car 1 and car 2. It's not just about that. This could be about somebody fucking 10 miles away who they didn't get to in time because they were too busy saving you. The idea is that if you were to say that if you have sex, right, that and if you get pregnant, that you cannot have an abortion, then you would be engaging in unclear and unfollowed through logic if you were to then say that if you get into a car and you get into a car crash, that the ambulance should get to you and the paramedics should tend to you. Those two positions are logically are incompatible. They don't make sense to each other.
They're incompatible when you're misconstruing the lines of thought. So you're combining logistical issues with moral issues. So you're saying that because they're helping me, there's not enough ambulances for me to save someone who's fallen down the stairs 20 miles away. That's not a moral problem, that's a logistical problem. If there's enough ambulances to help me, it's not stop anyone else. The logic that I'm following here is that someone coming to save me in an ambulance is not preventing someone else from getting medical care morally. Whereas if you have an abortion, you're preventing someone else from living 70, 60 years of their life based on an action you done that you knew what the consequence could potentially be, yet you still done it. Now you're going to stop someone else from living because you don't like the consequence.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just simply just don't understand. I just simply think you don't understand what consent is.
Okay, if I have sex, I know that pregnancy is a risk, correct? So I know this is an issue that might happen.
Right, but consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy. In the same way as that consent to sex is not consent to continuing sex.
You're consenting to an action. And that
right.
action.
Okay. So do you think that a woman can revoke consent midway through sex?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Right. So then why can't they revoke consent if and when they find out that they're pregnant?
Because it's a separate human who also deserves to live and experience the same rights that me and you enjoy.
But that was not in any way an answer to my question, so I'll ask you again. Why, if they find out that they are pregnant, why can they not revoke consent then?
Because I did answer your question.
No, you did not.
There's now 3 people involved instead of 2. That is the issue.
No, there is not. We are still talking about one individual. So the one individual, they have sex, they get pregnant, right? You've already agreed that they can revoke, that they can take back consent during sex. Why can they not take back sex during pregnancy? We're talking about one individual, not 2, not 3, just one.
Yeah, right. So if you're consenting to an action between 2 parties, right? So if I'm having schmecks with someone and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? I've made a decision over my body that this person can no longer continue doing this to my body, right? In the sense of I can't stop consenting to a pregnancy isn't because I'm consenting to an action with someone else. It's a process. And someone else who can't consent either way, they can't say, yes, let's continue this pregnancy. No, let's not continue, because they don't have the ability to do that. So we have to protect them. That's why the law exists, to give them the right to life. So you cannot consent to be like, I don't want this anymore, I'm going to unalive you. It's not right.
Right, so you have agreed that you can revoke consent during pregnancy or during sex because, you know, it's just something that you don't want to happen to your body anymore. But why can you not revoke consent during pregnancy? Because it's something that you don't want to happen to your body anymore. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, but if I say, hey, I'm not going to have sex with you anymore, the other person doesn't instantly die. That is the truth. The other person does not die if I say, I don't want to have sex with you anymore. If you stop consenting to a pregnancy, another person dies. That's the issue.
Right, okay, but like I mean, like you are not convincing me of this argument at all, because I've already told you that I don't consider it morally worthwhile if it doesn't have sentience. So you
don't agree with human rights, the concept of them, because they
no, I absolutely do agree with the concept of human rights. I just think that you shouldn't have to give them, and in almost every other circumstance, you do not give them to somebody who does not possess sentience. And we know this. You know this. Everybody in the live chat knows this, because it is already a pre-established fact of reality that if somebody is in a coma for long enough, it is up to the next of kin to decide whether to pull the plug on them or not. So we've already established that this is the thing. We have already established that if you do not possess sentience, and if there is with any sort of a reasonable doubt that they are not going to bounce back from that coma, that you can decide to take their right to life away from them, which I mean is calling into question the whole inalienable status of it. Why will you just not afford that to a pregnant woman?
Well, look, you've raised a valid point, right? So you said that someone in a coma, their right to life is established by their family, right? Their family now has that right over them. They can decide whether they live or die. And I would agree that in certain instances, that's completely okay, right? But where that differs is if I'm in a coma and the doctor is like, you have a 20% chance of coming out of that coma, should we wait indefinitely for that very, very minute chance of me surviving? Probably not, right? Because it's a drain on resources that could save other people with a much higher likelihood, right? Whereas with pregnancy, the difference between that is that given the time and the nurture, 100% of those will become a person, unless you stop that from happening. And like you said, so you said,
yeah, but
the whole
I mean,
thing
you've just said again that if you don't interrupt the pregnancy, that it will get sentience. I don't care what it will get. I care what it is now. In the same sense that I would not give a 5-year-old alcohol because it will be 18. I care about what it is now. I don't give a fuck about what it's going to be if you just wait a while and it develops the capacity for sentience. I don't care. And neither should you, because you agreed with me earlier in this call that you wouldn't give a 5-year-old alcohol because they will be 18. So why do you care about a fetus that will develop sentience but doesn't have it now?
Okay, we don't give 5-year-olds, I answered this earlier, we don't give 5-year-olds alcohol because it's very bad for their health and affects their development naturally and healthily, right? That's why we don't give them alcohol. Not because we think they should have less rights.
We don't give them alcohol because they're 5 and because they're not 18. The health defects, I agree with you. Yeah, it is bad for them. But what I'm saying is, we don't give them alcohol because they will be 18. We don't give them alcohol because they are 5. We don't care about what they're going to be eventually. So we should only be looking at what the fetus has the capacity for now. And if it doesn't have the capacity for sentience, then we shouldn't afford it any kind of rights.
But there's a fundamental difference in our arguments, that you're arguing from sentience, I'm arguing from human value. So my point of where someone deserves human rights is when they're now a separate human entity, which is at conception. So the question I was going to ask you is, where do you define the criteria that someone now has human rights?
Once they develop sentience.
Is there an objective benchmark in which we know sentience has been established?
Well, yes, at minimum 20 weeks and at maximum 24.
And how do they know this?
I don't know where it says that I'm a fucking scientist on this, but I mean, like, that's what the data says.
Yeah, but what does the data say exactly? Like, what is the definitive point that
the data says that from the development of the brain that they like now know that it has the capacity for sentience. Again, I am butchering it because I am not a scientist.
Yeah, so there's no.
But it's the same. But it's the same people that you're going to who say that life begins at conception, who are also saying that sentience does not develop until somewhere between 20 and 24 weeks. It's the same people.
No, I agree with that. They are two separate things. Sentience and like the conception are two separate concepts. But the thing that I'm saying is that when someone is a separate human life, regardless of what we define as sentience and whether they possess it or not, they should be afforded the same right to life that we have. Should they have the same legal rights of, being able to drive a car or drink alcohol? Absolutely not. It's a thing that you earn as you age up. The legal right.
Right,
but
and
the right
human rights are earned when you develop sentience.
In your worldview, in mine, they're not. That's the fundamental difference here.
In any worldview that makes any kind of sense. The idea, man, this is such the pro-life argument when you boil it down, and I mean, like, sentience is the best kind of version of the kind of pro-choice argument that I have personally heard. It's why I employ it. I've been pro-choice for as long as I can fucking remember. I've argued this 100 different ways, right? Sentience is just the best. Anyway, what the pro-life argument boils down to is the most extreme and most egregious case of special pleading that I have ever fucking heard. Because in every other instance, with the paramedics helping you if you get into a car crash, with a 5-year-old not being allowed to drink because it will become 18, in all of these things, you and I are aligned and you are consistent. The only time where you become inconsistent is when you are talking about a fetus. That is the only time. It is the only point. We have gone over 2 or 3 or 4 of these examples, and you have been aligned in all of them bar one. And the only one is when we are talking about a fetus.
Yeah, because look, the logic tracks up until it doesn't. Like, sure, I can agree that if someone comes out with an ambulance, they should help you. Of course they should, right? But then you're like, you bring it to the point of the analogy, which is then to convince me that you're right. So obviously it's not going to track and I'm going to be inconsistent in your worldview. Like I've said multiple times, we don't give a child alcohol because it affects their development and potentially stunts their growth. For the same reason, we don't allow people to abort children because it stops their growth and development. It's that's not an inconsistency. Abortion is bad because it.
No, there is a fundamental difference between a fetus and a child. There is a fundamental difference between a fetus and an adult. Unless you are going to like genuinely argue that an acorn is a tree, then that these are different things.
An acorn isn't a mammal. Okay, an acorn, first of all, if you want to get real scientific...
Is an acorn a tree? Is an acorn a tree?
No, I'm...
Right, so... Right.
I have to answer your question if you don't interrupt me, right? An acorn isn't a tree the same way an egg or a semen isn't a person because it hasn't been fertilized. An acorn is basically a tree egg. It has to be fertilized. So when it's sitting there on the floor, it's not a tree because it hasn't been fertilized. An acorn is a tree egg.
An acorn is not a tree because it hasn't had the ability to grow and to develop. And a fetus is not should not and is not classified as a person. It is not afforded personhood until it develops. It does not possess sentience until it develops. So an acorn is not a tree, and a fetus is not granted human rights, is not granted like any sort of protections under law.
Okay, an acorn, again, like I said, is an egg. Hasn't been fertilized. In the same way, I would not argue that a human egg is a person because it's not. So I don't really get the point you're getting at here with the acorn comparison.
Because, okay, look. I'm going to listen to my audience, right? The audience has been begging me to let a woman up here and talk about this. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I understand that, from a woman's kind of point of view, or from the idea of two kind of men are arguing this. If you are opposed to me bringing somebody up, that's okay. We can cut the conversation short. If not, I'm going to bring up someone from the chat.
No,
It's up to you.
that's absolutely fine. No, I'm
Okay.
happy to just be here.
All right.
You know, we're not going to agree on everything, but we can agree that it has to be a debate to be had. Hello.
Oh, I thought you were bringing us both up, but that's okay. I can do this alone.
Olivia hasn't actually requested.
That surprises me because I know she's chomping at the bit here as well. So this baffles me. First of all, you tried to make an argument on behalf of disabled people, which, as a disabled woman, was horrifying. Unless you also have a disability.
I don't want to disclose that.
So yeah, horrifying. Don't do that. Don't stand up or speak for disabled people if you don't have a disability. We don't like
I think it's a bit rude to start the argument and telling me what I can and can't do. If I, like, it's a logical argument. Why is he
No,
allowed
it's
to
not.
make
If you don't have a disability or you don't have a child with a disability or a family member with one, don't speak for them.
Okay, well, I don't own a car. Am I allowed to have an opinion on, like, road rights and who should be paying insurance and
No.
should cars be cheaper?
No.
Okay.
Second of all, if you don't have a womb, don't argue for womb rights and don't tell women what to do with their bodies. You're constantly like arguing on the side of pro-life when you're not even considering the damage it does mentally to women or physically, which is quite disturbing.
Who get killed and aren't allowed to live life. That's the damage.
But they're not being killed if they're literally a seed.
They're not a seed. We've established that.
Can I interject for 2 seconds? Brady, that's how you say your name, right? Just
Brady.
out of curiosity, if, for instance, a woman has not consented to sex and ends up pregnant and it is mentally damaging and everything else, would you be in favor of an abortion then?
Would I be in favor? No.
Not favor, but would you say that that woman should be allowed to go ahead and have an abortion?
I can understand the woman's
Okay,
choice.
so perfect. That's one thing. If a fetus, a child or whatever, is not viable outside of the womb, won't live afterwards, would you deem it acceptable then?
For that question, I'd probably have to do more research. I don't really.
Oh, okay, so let me. I have an instance. I have a friend who went to her first scan, and the child was diagnosed with something called anencephaly. Basically, what that means is the child was never going to live outside of the womb ever. The skull around the top part of their skull would never form. Yeah, so their brain would be open. Okay, they were never going to live. Would you deem it acceptable then? Child's not going to live either way.
That's a fair question.
We've established.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry. Would you deem it acceptable
I
then?
think it's a bit of a weird. Well, like I'm trying to explain, I would have to do more research whether I could definitively say yes or no. But we're establishing that the child will never actually live and have a life by itself, and it's
So that's what I'm asking. Would you deem it
really be as
acceptable?
bad as taking away the right to.
But my friend
has no right to life.
I don't know. That's
My friend, if she now, I can say she didn't have it because she wanted a memory at birth. But that child was never going to live regardless. Would you have deemed it acceptable for her to go ahead and have a termination in that circumstance? Or
I mean, I think you're kind of pivoting here and saying that it wasn't going.
But this is part of pro-choice because she was given a choice at that scan. She was given a choice of you can go full term or you can terminate the pregnancy right now. Either way, that child is not going to live. That's a choice.
Okay, so first of all, let's just clear up our definitions. Every pregnancy is living, so whether it will survive outside of the womb is a separate
do you know why
we have to establish that.
If you don't mind, this comes to where living is not necessarily a term. You have to make it to a certain point, which Stephen has brought up earlier. And you were like, I don't know what that point is. Lungs have to develop up to 70% capacity.
I do know what
Not
the point
all
is.
babies make it to that far. Some babies will never have 70% capacity, which means they will never be a baby. Their brains will never develop to the point where they are able to think, which means they will never suck their thumb in the womb. She is telling you her friend's child was never going to develop a skull. They were telling her that it was never going to have anything above its neck. They asked that mother if she wanted to abort or deliver a dead child. Is it fair for that mother to make the decision to have an abortion or deliver a dead child? No living.
Okay, so again, like I said, I don't know. That seems like a bit of a moral grey area. I would argue that it is more morally permissible to allow an abortion in that case than a normal, healthy child. I think we're taking a very extreme example to apply it to a larger whole. Like, if we look at examples like this, we're talking about like 0.1% of abortions. I'm arguing that 95% of abortions, which are elective and are not medically necessary, should not be allowed. Whether we can argue then about the 5%, sure, let's do that. I think most people, if their morals are correct, we
Is
shouldn't
it
even be arguing
morally
about the
acceptable to bring a
95%.
child into a hostile environment, or somebody who doesn't have finances to provide, a house to provide, a situation of domestic violence? Is it morally right to subject another child to live like that?
Well, I'll ask you another question on top of that. You said another child, right? So why shouldn't we just unalive the one that's already alive? Take
We
the
actually
resources
have
and use more money?
situations where Tusla gets involved in those situations. Pardon?
But someone still has to pay for it.
A woman
Someone still
doesn't
has
have
to pay for it, so it's still a financial
to
problem, right?
provide for Tusla. No, they don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you pay
but
taxes.
women who don't pay taxes also,
So you're
women who
providing
don't
for them.
provide taxes are also entitled to Tusla and
Okay,
things
so
like that.
a woman, do you buy things in the shop?
I do.
Okay, so let's say you're not a taxpayer, but you buy things in the shop, right? You know you're still paying tax.
Okay.
You're paying VAT, so you're still paying money
Yes.
to the government to provide the service of Tesla.
Okay. Well, then everybody's providing for Tusla, not just the mother of a child.
Exactly. It's the whole point.
So, but can
But
I
your
just
argument at the
relate back?
beginning of this whole conversation was, if people go out and have sex, they're taking the risk to get pregnant. Therefore, they're taking a risk in their own hands that they're not allowed to have an abortion. What about Plan B? Are they allowed to take Plan B if they think they're at risk of being pregnant, or is that like off the table for you too?
As far as I know, Plan B prevents the egg from being fertilized. Correct me if I'm
No,
wrong.
it doesn't. You can take it right up to 2 weeks afterwards.
Okay, so I would argue that if we're talking about morally, it would be wrong to do that because you're ending someone else's life.
It's literally a seed being germinated. A tree is not a tree till it's above ground.
Like, a seed would be the semen or the egg because it hasn't fertilized at all. A conceived life, a zygote, is not a seed anymore.
A tree is not a tree till it's above ground.
Okay,
Can I just make a point on the fact that you keep referring to a child as a pregnant woman and a fetus as two completely separate entities, which, okay, so do you know what an umbilical cord is?
I am aware it's a cord that attaches the child to the mother.
Okay, do you know what that does?
Provides nutrients from the mother via the placenta.
And do you know what else?
I would say it provides antibodies, something along those lines. Basically,
Do you know what the most important thing the umbilical cord does? It provides life. So a pregnant woman is providing that child with life.
Okay, first of all,
that child is not a separate entity. As a woman who has had a child, that umbilical cord has to be cut at birth to provide two completely different separate entities.
Okay, but they are separate entities in a medical sense because your DNA is not the
They're
same.
not separate entities in a medical sense because when I went through my pregnancy, my child had a lack of oxygen, nutrients, and everything due to a damaged umbilical cord. So I was giving her all of that. Yeah, she couldn't provide that by herself.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the child doesn't provide anything by themselves, not their oxygen, nothing, because it's all being provided via the umbilical cords. Like
Okay,
that's
so they're not
they're
separate.
not a separate life.
They are separate life forms. Okay, if you're in the hospital with breathing tubes down your neck, are you all of a sudden a cyborg?
Yes.
No, you're not.
I would say
You're
you are being
nothing.
provided
if you've got
life
breathing
from.
tubes down your neck, you're just empty. You're hollow. And if you're outside, next of kin came in and pulled those plugs out, you're dead.
Okay, but look, the point I was making, besides the point, if you have breathing tubes down your neck from a machine in the hospital, it doesn't make you a cyborg in the same way that you being attached via an umbilical cord doesn't mean you're your mother. You're being provided for by your mother via the umbilical cord.
But in the same way, if you're attached to a machine that's keeping you alive and someone came in and pulled that cord, you're dead. If someone rips out the umbilical cord, you're dead.
Okay, but what's that got to do with like your
It's
wife and
the
the
same point.
separation? Like just
Because you keep bringing it back to separate entities.
which they are. Like that's not a revolutionary statement to make, and disagreeing with that just makes you intellectually honest.
Okay.
Like if you have.
Is that a polite way of telling us that we're stupid?
No, it's a polite way.
It's not viable on its own without its mother, and you're trying to say it is?
I'm not trying to say it is. It's absolutely not. That's the whole point. It needs to be protected and provided for.
Are you going to do it? You're a sperm donor.
I'm not. I'm not registered as a sperm donor.
But
Well,
that's
if
the
you
whole
were
point. The
to-
man is. The man has nothing to do with the scenario. So therefore, it's the woman's body and the woman's choice. If she cannot cope for it and provide for it, she should have the right to make the decision on her own.
Okay, but you just said the man isn't in the situation, right? So that means there's now 2 people involved and not 3, right?
No, not people. There is the woman.
And the child.
No, the woman and the thing, not
The
person.
thing, okay, the thing.
The thing growing
Okay.
inside of her until it has the ability to grow outside of her on its own.
You not think
Because if
that's a-
something goes wrong at 24 weeks and she gets sick, then it can be taken and put in an incubator.
Yeah,
That's
and-
when it's a person.
Okay, but I don't subscribe to this like atheist worldview where like we ascribe a criteria of they
It's
have-
not atheist. As someone who's trying to get pregnant as a disabled woman, I have to have the realistic worldview that if my body cannot cope with the child inside of me, at 24 weeks, my child will either survive outside of my body or die.
Okay, but
It's a
are you-
realistic worldview.
Are you an atheist though? Like curiosity.
I'm a realist.
Are you an atheist?
Nobody kept me alive in this world except me and my will.
Okay, so do you believe in God?
I believe that there's nobody out there keeping me alive except me.
So you're an atheist.
I have been prayed over, fucking blessed, dragged to Lourdes and Rome, and nobody kept me alive except me.
I know, but you're dodging my question. Like you very clearly don't want to answer the question. Are you an atheist? It's a very.
I'm a Christian. I'm not a Catholic.
So you're a Christian that agrees with killing children. It's not very Christian.
I didn't say I believed in killing children, but my child will not be viable inside of me after 24 weeks, but it might die.
Okay, so after 24 weeks, you don't need an abortion. You can take it out.
But it won't be inside of me. It will be pulled out of me.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing against that because.
But that's an abortion.
No, it's
Putting
not.
a child out of a mother's body at 24 weeks is aborting it from the womb.
No, it's not.
Medically,
is.
yes, it is.
Yes, it is. An abortion is defined as the termination of a pregnancy. It's
A
when
pregnancy
the pregnancy
at 24 weeks.
ceases.
So that
if you
is
carry
against
the
a
child,
A miscarriage.
a miscarriage is also
just
is also an abortion.
Exactly.
If you carry the baby to term all 9 months and then deliver it, right, and it's a normal healthy baby, and it's a
You are
it's
aborting a child out of your womb.
Yes, the pregnancy has ceased. That is what an abortion is defined as. It's just the method that you seem to disagree with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
no, I'll give
cesarean
you that.
section is an
It's
abortion.
an abortion.
But look, let me clarify from our point of view, right? Because there might be a bit of a misconception here. People, on my point of view, we don't disagree with your ability at 24 weeks to get a C-section and no longer have to carry the pregnancy.
That's an abortion.
Yeah, but we
If
don't-
you're a Christian, Catholic, any
not a
religion
Christian.
at all, that is an abortion. And
Yeah,
you
but-
asked me if I believed in God.
Yeah, I asked you, but I'm not a Christian Catholic. The point that I'm making is we disagree with the killing of children.
Can I ask what religion are you if you're not a Christian Catholic?
agnostic.
You're agnostic, okay. So let me just clarify this for a second. If you actually go and look at other religions as well, Catholicism is the only religion in which abortion is deemed as immoral. You should do your research on that because you keep bringing it back to religion as well.
Most religions say that killing other humans is wrong, so I don't really think they have.
But we're not talking about killing other human beings. Yeah. Okay, right. We're talking about killing a fetus.
Which is a child. It's your child.
It's not
okay, but this is why you keep relating it to religion as well. You keep bringing in religion, and Catholicism is the only religion in which it is deemed as immoral. And you keep talking about morals as well and the moral rights of human rights in regards to this child as well. But what about the moral rights of the person and mothers and fathers alike of who cannot deem having a child?
And we haven't even brought up proper trauma.
Okay, but like at the end of the day, I understand people go through trauma and stuff. But your mental anguish and trauma should not trump someone else's existence. Like, if I'm like, oh, I really hate that music artist, I hate their music, it makes me feel horrible and sad and dead inside, I shouldn't be able to take a gun and go unalive them.
No, okay, so
if you hang on, if you hate a bad situation, she unalives herself, never mind the child.
Say that again, sorry, I missed that.
What if a woman is in such a bad situation after what happened to her, she hurts herself, never mind the child?
Yeah, that's terrible and all that, but I don't think...
So you'd rather she takes both of them out than have an abortion?
Who's saying that they're going to take...
Well, you said, yeah, that's terrible. Like, it was nothing.
Yeah, it is terrible someone taking their own life, but I'm saying the solution to prevent someone from taking their own life isn't killing another person.
Just in just on your view of if you hate the music that's playing and you just can't stand it and everything else, what do you do in that situation?
When you
exactly, you turn the music off, okay? So if pardon,
turn the music off.
You turn the music off because you don't want to listen to it.
Does the artist die when I turn the music off?
No.
Exactly. So.
But you turn it off because you don't want to listen to it. Yeah. And I understand that it's an extreme case, but in the same situation as a woman who falls pregnant and goes and has a termination, an abortion, whatever way you want to word it, it's the same kind of thing.
It's not because turning the music off doesn't prevent someone else's life from happening or starting or continuing. That's the point I'm trying to make, is I can turn the music off without having to go and find the artist and kill them to stop them from making more music, if that makes sense.
I completely understand what you're saying. But, and as well as and this is my favorite thing about pro-lifers, is the fact that the only argument they can have is you're stopping somebody's life from growing. They don't take into account everything else that comes with it. But that is your only argument. You are fighting for the rights of a child who hasn't even been born yet over the rights and the moral integrity of the person who is going to have that child.
Well, I'm not. Who's saying over? It's equal. That's the whole point. Is that just because someone is at a different stage of development than you doesn't mean you should have the right to end their life. Like, you as a 40-year-old can't decide, well, I hate 5-year-olds, they're all going to die. That's wrong.
I swear to God, if somebody else calls me 40 this week, I'm going to scream.
I wasn't saying that, I was just using that as an example.
No. I'm related, don't worry.
Yeah, no, but like, I'm just saying the point of our argument, like the other girl who came up said, she's like, oh, at 24 weeks, I want to have a C-section and not have the child. I mean, that is absolutely fine. I'm not disagreeing with that at all, right? Like, I think you have to be out of your mind to be like, no, you should have to carry it to 9 months. Do I think ideally people should? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if we're having an abortion before that point, you're saying, my life is being made so difficult because of the result of action I took consensually. I'm now going to go and unalive someone else because I can't deal with this anymore. That is wrong.
Can I give you my own opinion as somebody who has had a termination?
Go ahead.
So I was in a situation where I already had a child. not even at the age of 1. And I was in a relationship with somebody who was extremely controlling, misogynistic, horrible to a certain degree is a word that I would just use, would dehumanize me every day. This person already had a child for another woman and would use the child as a warfare tactic, drag the other mother through the courts and everything else like that, literally just to basically get one up on her. And I fell pregnant. And I said, I cannot morally subject another child to live in that situation. I have the power to control this. I have the power to either allow somebody, because I watched this little girl he had, and I watched how he dogged her mother into the ground in front of her, said horrible, nasty things. And I know the mother said the same. And as a moral obligation to another child, I made the right call to say, I'm not going to subject the child. I have the power to do something about this. And I'm not going to allow another child, as well as my own child, to grow up and live in an environment like that. Was I morally wrong for doing that?
Were you more right? So look, I'm gonna say first of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through all that. Like, I'm not gonna say or defend anything of that nature. Are you morally wrong for unaliving a child to prevent them from getting into that situation? I'd say you were right in the sense of wanting to prevent someone else from suffering. Like, that's why you took the action, correct? You're like, I don't want this other human to suffer and go through all this stuff and have a horrible life. Yeah. So you acknowledge that this person was going to have a terrible life being brought into this. But what in that scenario you didn't factor in is that your solution to that was to prevent them from having any life at all. So you prevented them from their first day of school, their graduation, their college, their finding a wife and getting married, to prevent a situation that would have been like the first half of their life. No,
150%. I 150% did that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'd say. It's
but
wrong.
that's why I'm asking, because you're talking about morals here. Yeah. And this is a moral debate.
Yeah.
Because I could have brought a child into that environment, and you're talking about first days and everything else like that, and I prevented that from happening. But what I also prevented from happening is a world full of trauma, a world full of, in a form of neglect and abuse.
Okay, and I'm saying your logic going into it is noble. Like, that you're like, I don't want this to happen to this other person. That is completely understandable and like good, right? But then where I would disagree is the action you took to prevent that wasn't leaving that situation, wasn't standing up, wasn't doing any of that. It was to stop someone else from living point blank. That is what I would disagree with.
So that's what I'm asking. Do you think it would be morally right to allow a child to grow up in that environment?
I think it would be morally better to allow the child to grow up at all.
But we're talking about that environment as well, because that's the environment a child would have to grow up in.
But that's my answer. I think that your action to prevent the person from suffering was bad, but the intention behind it wasn't.
See, this is where we'll have to agree to disagree then, because I personally think that that way of living as well is no way of living at all.
I mean, but we could just apply that logic to daily life, you know what I mean? Like, if a child's going to have a hard future because all of a sudden the family's homeless and doesn't have a house, well, we should just kill them because they're going to grow up and suffer. Like, you know what I mean? What is the distinction of now it's okay to murder them, now it's not?
Because I had a termination before the child was viable outside of the womb.
Okay.
So, regardless, you know, that child wasn't a living creature at that moment. But they weren't, because if I had have gone into early labor, that child wouldn't have lived anyway.
No, but look,
at the time.
we're going to have a debate about science and facts. We have to be objective and call it how it is. You can't say that it's not alive. That is dishonest. Like, it is alive. Can we establish that it is alive?
From a certain point, yes, I will agree.
From the point of conception, not a certain point.
Well, I don't necessarily agree. I
Yeah.
will. Why? Because up until development of lungs, brain, heart, kidneys, everything else, that child is not living.
It is living.
But I don't agree, and this is my opinion.
How would cell
Pardon?
division happen how would cell division happen to create lungs, hearts, and brains if it's not already alive?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't catch that.
How would cell division happen to create hearts, lungs, and brains if it's not already a living organism?
That's scientific, and I failed science. I won't lie.
Yeah,
But
so-
I'm just saying, so they don't. Sometimes they don't develop. So when they don't develop, are you still going to say that that's living?
It's still alive, yes. It's still a human life because it's alive and it's a human. Like, we can disagree on whether it deserves human rights because sentience or it doesn't have lungs, but the fundamental fact is it is a human life and it's alive. Therefore, it deserves human rights.
Well, technically, and as I said, science isn't my my forte, but technically speaking, in a medical term, a fetus is actually classified as a parasite.
No, it's not. Okay, look up the definition of a parasite. A parasite has to be separate species from its host. And if you
Sweetie, I will literally send you a
Okay,
screenshot of
So
it is technically classed as a parasite because it is a foreign object inside of a woman's body.
You're getting up here and you're
Brady,
debating about
Brady.
Go ahead.
Are dictionaries descriptive or prescriptive?
What do you mean?
As in, do dictionaries tell you the only way that a word ought to be used, or do they just tell you some circumstances in which a word can be used?
It describes the context. in which the
Right.
words
So from a different context, then a parasite can absolutely, or a fetus can absolutely be classified as a parasite. However, and I'm not kind of cutting an end to this just yet. I want to kind of backtrack a little bit to what you had kind of said there earlier. You had said that you were okay with somebody doing a non-lethal form of abortion after 24 weeks, but you would be opposed to it before that, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So it is just about consent then. You just don't respect consent.
It's not about consent. It's that after the point you said a non-lethal, right? The issue
Well,
that
it
said
would would be about consent though, because if the pregnant person did not want to continue the pregnancy after 24 weeks, then you would be okay with that because they're not consenting to continuing that pregnancy. But if they never continued to start the pregnancy, like at all, like as soon as they found out from a couple of weeks into the pregnancy, say it's 6 weeks, right? Because that's I think, Olivia, is that when like most people kind of find out that they're pregnant? It's like they like average, we'll say, is about kind of 6 weeks.
Yeah, about that.
Okay, so say that they're 6 weeks in, right? You are now making them stay pregnant for an additional 18 weeks, even though they have said that they don't want to, and they may have already told you that as soon as the baby turns 24 weeks, that they are going to have a non-lethal abortion, but you want them to stay pregnant up until that point, then you simply do not respect consent.
It's not that I don't respect consent. It's that one of these options will lead to someone dying, the other doesn't. That's the fundamental difference.
I mean, like that's the only possible way of looking at this. If you don't have a problem with someone doing a non-lethal abortion after 24 weeks, but you are opposed to it beforehand, then consent is the only thing that stays consistent. Because they didn't consent to staying pregnant, but you're only okay with it after a certain point. So at a certain point, so from 6 weeks when they find out up until 24 weeks, you don't care about their consent.
Okay, respectfully, you're either not hearing what I'm saying or you're intentionally misconstruing it to make me say something I'm not saying. Consent, of course, is a factor, but the number one factor from my argument is whether or not someone is going to die or not. In one case, if we have an abortion prior to 24 weeks, someone is 100% guaranteed going to die, regardless of consent. After 24 weeks, you can have the abortion and someone still gets to live outside the womb. Everyone's happy. That is the fundamental difference. It's not that I don't respect consent. It's that I want everyone to be okay and get to live. Like, that is the difference.
But everybody, your terminology of everybody's happy isn't necessarily correct, because a mother who doesn't want a child, who has been forced to go ahead up to 24 weeks to that point, is not happy.
Okay, is the mother alive?
Potentially, yes. Potentially mentally damaging, and decides that the mental torment that it has caused can go and cause a woman to kill herself. So
potentially, like, so now we're using hypotheticals. Like, I could say, oh well, I went crazy because I had a pregnancy and now need to get in my car and run people over. Like, it's not a one thing leads to that. That's a potential. We don't know. Like, it's a very unlikely scenario.
It's not unlikely. It's not unlikely. Trust me.
Name one time that's ever happened.
Name one time what?
Where a pregnant person was just driven so completely and utterly irrational due to, hormones, I guess, when they were pregnant, that they decided to get into their car and unalive a bunch of people. Like, name one instance that's ever happened.
That's my point. It's an analogy where because you have a pregnancy.
But then there was no point in even bringing that up. Why, like,
that because of the pregnancy, the person might suffer mental anguish and it might be terrible and this, that, the other. They might do things and then kill themselves. Is what her point was.
Yeah, but we know that does happen. And as I've just asked you, you can't point to me a single example of your version of that.
Yeah, it's called an
Whereas,
analogy.
but it's a stupid analogy, because I can point to hundreds upon thousands of people who were in the situation that Olivia described, but you can't point to one person that was in the situation that you described. That's the difference.
Okay, so let's go back to it then. Like, you're having mental anguish. Okay, terrible. Like, I'm not going to say that that's good, but the solution to that isn't killing someone else. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Like, and it seems
but postnatal depression can also result in a mother killing their child as well.
Maybe.
No, it's not a maybe. In high cases of postnatal depression, that happens.
Okay, and then do you know what should happen? We shouldn't be like, wow, well done, you killed your child. We would say that was a terrible thing to do, right?
That nobody congratulates a woman for doing that.
Yes, they do. The whole pro-choice movement is like happy that abortions are happening. Like, oh my God, 1 million, wow, women are choosing so much. Like, it's celebrated how many abortions happen per year.
No, it's not.
Yes, because it might not be celebrated in the term, but it is acknowledged and recognized as a positive movement, because for somebody who is suffering from depression before pregnancy is at more risk of postnatal depression, is more at risk of doing more damage to a child when they are born as well. So if you can put an end to something like that happening as well. Pardon?
Is that bad? Is it bad to harm the child after it's born?
Yes.
Why?
Because that child has been born.
And why does that matter? What's the difference between like 1 minute before being born and 1 minute after being born?
I'm not talking about pro-life after the 24 weeks. Your whole point is that before 24 weeks, you are dedicatedly against it.
Yes, and any rational, right-minded person should be.
Well, I think you probably could do with getting checked as well if you think that that's your view on a rational person.
My rational view is I don't think we should kill children prior to 24 weeks. How is that an unrational point of view to have?
But hang on, why is it unrational for somebody else to have an opposing view? I think it is rational to respect everybody's opinions and understand that people have different opinions, and not to berate somebody else for their opinions and tell them that because their opinions are different to yours, that they are not a rational person.
So do you respect someone who thinks like, oh, I go out and I grape women, I really enjoy it? Do you think that's a rational thing and they should be like celebrated for having that opinion?
No, that's not rational.
Exactly.
But you're saying that hang on, right? You're saying that a woman's choice, when you are not a woman, you do not go through what a woman goes through when they are pregnant. You are saying that her option to go through that is irrational just because you don't agree with it.
I'm saying the moral position. I've already stated earlier that I don't think we should be demonizing women who choose to do this at an individual level. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. It should be a systemic thing.
But that's what you have just done by telling me.
No, I'm saying
that.
Your opinion that we should kill children and that should be normalized and okay is an unrational point of view. Like, I don't know why it's controversial to be like, yes, we should say that people deserve human rights. They should be allowed to live, and people shouldn't have the right to dictate whether or not they live or die based on how much value they prescribe to them. I don't know how that's unrational to think. You know what I mean? Like, ultimately, what you are saying is, I value everyone's opinion, and everyone's opinion should be listened and respected and all that. And then when I challenged you on that and said, well, do you respect a grapist's opinion that he enjoys doing that and thinks it's okay? And you said, no, of course not. That's wrong, and you shouldn't be able to do that. The same logic has to apply then to everything. Like, some opinions can be objectively wrong, or they shouldn't be encouraged. And you tried to berate me on me saying that I shouldn't be allowed to say that to other people, when you said the exact same thing that I said.
I didn't berate you.
No,
I wasn't berating you, and if you want to accuse me of berating you,
you tried schooling me. Don't be
I didn't berate you, and as somebody who takes quite a lot of joy in berating people, that wasn't me berating you.
I was one of those people at one point in time that was not her berating somebody.
Okay, look, fair enough, right? But look, the point was you tried.
Anyway, look. I said earlier that I wasn't just going to kind of cut this off, right?
That's fair enough. Look, I've been on here chatting shit for ages, so...
Well, yeah. Brady, you've been on for just coming up to an hour and 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, nice.
We didn't agree on a single fucking thing, but it was... you know, I mean, like, look, it was at least a kind of like a respectful conversation, as in, like, nobody fucking shouted at each other or anything else like that. Well, I may have, but, you know, it's my life. I'm
you
allowed
called
to.
him stupid, and that's not nice.
Because look at this, you're not going to convince
I'm
anyone.
not always a nice person. But I do want to kind of commend you. There's not an awful lot of people who would kind of, you know, I mean, at one point it was like literally kind of 2v1. I know that I've kind of chipped in a little bit with Olivia since Godless left, but yeah, look, at a certain point the conversation has kind of not necessarily kind of gone in circles, but it's just like at a certain point, like, it's just not kind of getting any kind of further. It's not progressing in any way. So yeah, look, we can leave the conversation there. Yeah. There's one other person that I am wanting to get to before I finish. I've been live for about 3 hours now, so I hope this conversation is not going to take very long. But yeah, anyway.
One thing before I hop off.
Sorry?
Can I just say one thing before I hop off? Like,
yeah.
Closing remark.
Yeah, sure.
Like someone said, like that it was a respectful conversation. Yeah, like, we're not shouting at each other, but that's what people miss, is like, you can't convince people to agree with you by being hostile and mean and horrible. Like, and I'm not accusing you of these things, but people who agree with most of those prompts up there typically just shout you down and call you all sorts of names, and that's not productive to anyone. So if you're going to have debates about this with people, you have to come out from a perspective of like, I want you to think like me and see the light. And you won't get that by accusing people of doing this, that, the other. Like, people in the comments talking about the circle talk master. It's like, I'm presenting a point of view and they don't agree with it, so I have to keep defaulting. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, look at yeah, that's kind of fair enough. Look, we'll leave it there. if you want to pop up, Brady, because I know that you had said that you disagree with like everything that's on the board. But yeah. So yeah, we might have you back there for like one of the other topics. Yeah, Olivia, thank you again for popping up. Wasn't exactly
Mate,
expecting.
you won't hear from me for another 10 years. I've got to make it worthwhile.
This is, you know what? This is true. It's about that amount of time since I properly talked to you. So, you know, yeah. Anyway. Well, maybe not 10 years. Jesus Christ. We're like not that fucking old. Well, but anyway.
Good talk, guys.
Yeah. Good talk.
Brady, it was nice to have a conversation with you. I appreciate a different opinion. I do. We will leave it at a agreement to disagree. That opinions are just different.
Sure.
Yeah, and you're entitled to yours. I'm entitled to mine.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Stephen, I dropped you a follow, man, and maybe one of the other days we can debate about maybe the Donald Trump one. I think that would be fun.
Sure. No problem at all, man. All right. I'll talk to you both soon. I'm going to move on to the next guest, and yeah, we'll go from there. Thanks, you both.
Goodbye.
Bye, Olivia. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing? What's your name, age, and pronouns?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's your name, age, and pronouns?
30. He, him.
Okay, and your name?
Bolts.
All right. What do you disagree with on the board?
I disagree with everything. I've been listening to the whole conversation. I'm pretty much on Bridie's side here, but I actually want to come in with a completely different angle. This entire time, I want to help your side. So one of the first things is say AB in your lives because you weren't getting enough viewers because you kept saying abortion. So that's numero uno. Definitely try to keep saying AB.
Okay.
And one of my main arguments is that the AB going back to the states is actually giving the people more individual power. So while it may take a long time, overall, it's going to be beneficial to the people who actually want to see these things implemented. Once the people move into the states that have these values, eventually all the values there will be stronger within the state. And then when you try to fight for other things nationally, you'll actually have more of a stronger foothold because your state is fully in support of it. And when you have another state and fully in support of it, that state can also support you too. Now,
Okay, so
here's my nightmare scenario.
you don't.
Well,
you-
hold on, let me just land my plane real quick.
No, I'm
The
going
nightmare
I'm going
scenario.
to respond to something that you said. So you had said that giving AB back to the states, it gives people more rights. There are 3 people who have been unalived in Texas since the AB ban passed. So how is that helping their lives?
So if you focus on what I'm saying that over time, I'm not saying overnight. Over time, when you have values in the state, your state will become stronger because of it.
Oh,
Now,
so it's like Lord Farquaad
I was
then, from the first Shrek movie.
if I can finish my point I was trying to make is that in the nightmare scenario on your side would be if Trump enacts a federal ban on it, and all of a sudden you don't have individual power at all. So I would actually argue that you're more at risk of losing your quote unquote rights when it's federal rather than state.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, the whole kind of Lord Farquaad from the first Shrek movie kind of line aside, Yeah, I just simply just do not understand how, like, it's going to be long-term beneficial, but like some people are going to suffer in order to get there. I mean, like, that's just ridiculous.
So now here's the more detailed argument here. The doctors that are performing these procedures, and I've heard this argument before, some of them are scared because of how they will be treated in their license. These people are actually committing crimes. They are not scared, they are making an excuse. These are the people that we should be mad at specifically, not the whole system as a whole. Because in all 50 states, in the life of the mother, especially epitopic, right? It's legal. It's completely legal. Anything that has to do with life of the mother is completely legal. So any story that you hear where someone is, quote unquote, losing their life, that person did something wrong. They didn't do the procedure they were supposed to. So, I'm in support of having anything that has to do with the life of the mother. Yes, specifically. Like, we need to hone in on what the actual issue is here.
Okay.
Because
so
on paper,
why was this not happening before the overturning of Roe v. Wade?
Because people weren't afraid of losing their licenses.
No, but you said that the doctors were doing the procedures wrong.
It's not that they were doing the procedures wrong. It's that they're afraid of losing their license.
That is
so
what you just said.
No. I just said that they won't do it because they're afraid of losing their license.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
But I said, so it's the doctor's fault, and you said yes. So if they're not doing the procedures wrong,
that would,
then what's
that
the
would
doctor's
make
fault?
The doctor's fault is in not doing the procedure. Because again, on paper, in all 50 states, when it comes to the life of the mother, it is completely legal to have these procedures.
But you just said no to that. You said yes, then you said no, and then you essentially said yes again. So the doctors are doing the procedures wrong, right?
I never said that. I literally said them not doing it is in the result of them being scared because they don't want to lose their license. They don't want to do it because they don't want to lose their license. In the states that have stricter laws on this. This is common knowledge.
I asked you,
this is why things are
not
happening.
doing the procedures right, and you said no. And then I said, so why wasn't this happening before the overturning of Roe v. Wade? And you said because the doctors are not doing the procedures right.
I didn't even talk about before Roe v. Wade. I
asked you. I know you didn't make a statement, but I asked you. So why wasn't this happening before the overturning of Roe v. Wade? And you said, well, now because the
I didn't say
doctors
anything.
are not doing the procedures right. We have a whole ass chat on both TikTok and YouTube. They all heard what you said, the same as I did, and that is what you said. That the doctors were not doing the procedures right, and that's why that you are finding people being unalived in Texas specifically. That's what. So I brought this up by saying, well, what about the three people in Texas?
I didn't even say Texas. Wait a minute. I didn't even say Texas. I didn't even say the word Texas.
I know you didn't. I did. So you said that, oh my God, we're going to have to go back to the beginning of this conversation. You said that bringing it back to states' rights, right, specifically about abortion, right, that was bringing it back to the states' rights, that is going to be ultimately benefit, that is going to ultimately benefit everybody. And I said, well, what about the three people who have lost their lives in Texas because they weren't able to get an abortion? And you said because they are able to do it, but they're doing it like not properly because they're afraid of losing their license.
I never said not properly.
That was not happening before Roe v. Wade.
Again, you're not honing in on the problem here. The problem is the actual doctors. They are not performing the procedures because they feel like they're going to lose their license. These people are the problem. In all 50 states, these procedures are legal, okay? So you can claim that
In
things
all
are
50
happening,
states, an abortion
but
is
you
not
need to
legal.
look at the
Abortions are
individual
not
doing it.
legal in all 50 states. What are you talking about?
I never said that. I said in case of the
I'm
life
gonna
of the
lose my
mother.
fucking mind.
I said in case of the life of the mother. From the beginning, I said that.
Right. But that is clearly not true because 3 people in Texas have lost their life.
I never said it was not true. What I said was, on paper, the law is you are able to have these procedures.
Right. Well, that law is clearly either not being upheld or something
Exactly.
else
And who-
nefarious is
exactly.
happening
So
because
who-
3
so
people
who's
have
not
lost their
upholding it?
lives.
So who's not upholding it? Who's not upholding it? Who? The doctor.
The doctors,
The person,
but they were
the
able...
doctor that's supposed to do it.
No, shush. They
So
were
again,
shush.
hone in.
Shush.
Hone in.
Shush. They were able to do it before Roe v. Wade was overturned. So if Roe v. Wade hadn't have been overturned, then those 3 people would not have lost their lives.
They're still able to do it now, and they chose not to. And you're not looking at the doctor,
But they
which
would
is the
have
problem.
been able to do it if Roe v. Wade hadn't been overturned.
That's not true. They can do it, and they chose not to. And you're not looking at the
They
doctor.
can
The
do,
doctor is
and
the
they
problem.
chose not to, but they would have been able to if Roe v. Wade hadn't been overturned, because that
No,
would never
stop
have been
at
an
chose
issue.
not to.
But then it's
Stop
not
at chose
actually
not
the
to.
fault of Roe v. Wade, it's the fault of the doctors themselves, even though they were able to do it before Roe v. Wade, but now they're not, but it's not the doctor's fault. Dude, what in the name of fuck are you talking about?
How about you read the comment? Even the comment saying it. It's because the law is vague and the doctors are scared of litigation. Like I said the same exact thing over and over again.
But it wouldn't have been a vague law that would be enacted if Roe v. Wade was still the law of the land.
We're talking
Because
about
this shit
people
was
that
not
can't-
happening before Roe v. Wade. That's my point.
Again, you're looking at the doctor here. The person that didn't uphold the law was the doctor in this situation, not the system.
Okay, and why
Doctor.
did the law change?
It did not change.
Yes, it
in
did.
all 50
Yes,
states,
it did.
You can get these
Yes, it
procedures.
did. No, you can't.
No, it did not.
No, you can't. In
Texas is one of them.
Roe v. Wade allowed
anything
for
that has to
shush, shush. Roe v. Wade allowed for abortions, right? This would not have happened in an America still governed by Roe v. Wade, right? Or where Roe v. Wade was still the law. This would not be happening. It has now been overturned, and these laws were enacted straight away in all of these red states, and now you have 3 people who have died. So the idea that this would not that this would still have happened if Roe v. Wade was the law is laughably fucking insane.
It baffles me that you're not looking at the literal doctors that are treating these people. Like, I mean physically. Like, literally. Like, I'm talking about the doctor that's supposed to do this procedure. Like,
okay, do you agree
you're not getting
that
it?
it is only the law that is in Texas and other states now recently that is preventing doctors from doing this procedure?
If you go and look at the Texas law, it clearly states in the life of the mother, these procedures are allowed.
Right. But is that a new
Yeah,
law?
so-
Is that a new law? Or like Roe v.
No.
Wade, is it going back 50 years?
Nothing changed. Nothing changed. It has always been like this. In the life of the mother, the procedure is allowed.
Is the vague
Like,
law
how is that
is
like-
now over Texas, is that a new law only in the last 2 to 3 years, or is that a law that is going back 50 years? There is one correct answer.
Your claim is that something changed when Roe v. Wade happened and nothing
Yes.
changed.
No, it absolutely did. It absolutely did. All of
So what
these,
changed?
all of these. There was a number of red states that I forget the exact term on it, but it was basically like as soon as Roe v. Wade was overturned, it was like instantly, all of these laws went into effect. One of which
I need
was
you
in
to follow
Texas.
me here. Go look up Texas law it literally states in the life of the mother. And
Dude,
this
I
is
don't
one of
care what the
strictest
fucking law
states.
says. It's a new law that was only brought in after Roe v. Wade
whoa.
was overturned.
Back up. Back up.
So
Did
this
you
was
just say you
not
don't
this
care
was
what the law
not an
says?
issue when Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. This is a new law. It's only maximum 3 years old. As soon as Roe v. Wade was overturned, this law came into effect, and it is only now that we are having these sorts of problems. We were not having these sorts of problems when Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. Those are facts. You may not like them, but those are facts. Can you agree on those facts?
Okay. I'm gonna read Texas Health and Safety Code so we can
Did
really
you not
get
miss the bit where I said I don't care what the fucking law says? It's a new law that is only now crippling doctors' ability to be able to do their jobs in saving people's lives. Did you not hear that bit?
in section 170A. There is an exception.
You waited a really fucking long time to come up here and just be kicked off after 5 minutes. Dude, I said to you twice in the space of 2 fucking minutes that I don't care what the law says, and then you proceed to read me the law. In what fucking universe do you think I'm going to have a fucking conversation with you? In what universe? Jesus fucking Christ. All right. It was a good live. It's a good live. I've been live for nearly 3.5 hours. I'm calling it there, guys. Unfortunately, I'm really, really sorry. So we're not taking any more guests. We're at 17,000 likes. That it means just the absolute fucking world to me. That means the world to me. You're still in the fucking comment section. We're literally arguing about the law. I don't care what the law says that was brought in after Roe v. Wade, because because this exact scenario of 3 people losing their lives was not the case when Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. Did I use small words enough? Did I use small enough words? Because I have neither the time nor the crayons to explain to you in any other simpler fucking ways. I have no other simpler ways of explaining to you. Literally zero. To anybody that I did not get to on this live, follow me. You will get a notification when I go live again, and we will have a conversation then. Do not be like that last guest. Do not be like him. So, I want to genuinely thank each and every person who has popped into the live, who has sent a gift. I have never, ever, ever asked for a gift. I have a tiny goal down in the... It is literally 1 gift as a goal. I have never asked for a gift. I will never ask for a gift. That does not mean that I don't appreciate them. Yeah. Anybody who is not following me, follow me here. I'm a couple of subs away from 1,000 over on YouTube. If you could go over there and sub there, that would be absolutely well appreciated. Link is in my bio on my profile. So look, until the next one, I'm not 100% sure when the next live is going to be. I think it's going to be Wednesday night. I'm not 100% sure, but follow me, check back, and you'll get a notification when I go live. So until the next one, thank you so very much. And I'll talk to you all then. Oh, okay. So, over to the YouTube. I know that there are some people in here who are going to go over to MathPig stream. I am going to jump in there now as well, just for a little while. It's midnight here, so I'm probably not going to be over there for like that long of a time. But, you know, still, we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. I'm going to jump over to MathPigs live. The link is already in the comment section of the live chat. You might have to scroll up just a little bit, but it is there. Go over there, sub to MathPig, Yeah, I'll see you all over there in just a few minutes. Until the next stream, as I said, I think it might be Wednesday night. Until the next one, like, subscribe, do all of that YouTuber bollocks, and I shall talk to you in the next one.